In addition to that, before we issue bonds, phase 2 of the private development has to be under design, and the estimated taxable value for phase 2 is $275 million. Once those conditions are met for phases 1 and 2, the bonds to fund the ballpark can be issued, or we can authorize the issuance of those bonds. Excuse me. The bonds will be repaid from team revenues to include $1 million annual lease payment and a $2 ticket fee. We will also be creating a municipal management district, or MMD, surrounding that will encompass the new private development around the ballpark. The MMD is similar to a public improvement district or a PID. It has some broader purposes. That's why we're using it here. But in simple terms, it is an additional assessment on the taxable value of those properties in addition to property taxes. So they pay their property taxes. This is an assessment on top of that. In this case, we'll be using that to pay for debt service on the bonds. I mentioned there's a number of guarantees and the conditions that we needed to meet before we could issue bonds. There are also guarantees on phases 1 and 2 of the new private development. Those guarantees include, and we may be using a little bit of existing Houston Street TERS capacity, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. The guarantee that we have in place on phases 1 and 2 is on the revenues projected to be generated from those two developments. So both the property taxes and the MMD assessments. So we've talked about before that typically you'll see in a lot of development agreements, there may be some type of guarantee tied to a particular type of development being built. In this case, we have tied it to the projected revenues that are to come off of those two first phases. That's important because it is one of the primary ways that we're going to pay for the debt service on the bonds. To support the revenue guarantees, the team will provide a 2-year rolling line of credit through a bank that we will be able to verify, and a subset of team owners will provide an additional line of credit. Collectively, when you look at the team equity contribution, the team revenues, the guaranteed city and county property tax increment through the Houston Street TERS, and the assessments through the MMD, collectively, that pays for about 86% of the cost of the ballpark project. The remaining 14% may come from the Houston Street TERS and using existing city and county capacity within that TERS, but that assumes that the taxable value for phases 1 and 2 don't come in above our projections, and that the developer doesn't move forward with phases 3 and 4. If either of those things happen, the use of the existing Houston Street TERS capacity is reduced or eliminated altogether. There are, as I mentioned, 4 phases of new proposed private development surrounding the ballpark. The map on the right shows the site of each of the 4 phases. It's color-coded to the table on the left. The table on the left does show the projected taxable value and the estimated completion date for each phase of that new private development. And again, phases 1 and 2, as I mentioned, are the ones that we have the team guarantees on and are tied into the bond financing that we've been talking about. So with phases 1 and 2, we have the guarantee of new investment, which will produce taxable value of approximately $575 million in downtown San Antonio. It would be about $1 billion if phases 3 and 4 are constructed. And I do want to mention here again that the new private development, those 4 phases, will not receive any public funding or incentives. Just another way to look at the bonds issued for the ballpark, a little more from a graphic perspective. Again, the ballpark site there is in orange. We've got the 4 phases of private development shown on the map there as well. And so when we talk about repayment of the bonds, we will be using the $1 million annual lease payment from the team, the $2 ticket fee, and then the guaranteed Houston Street City and County property tax increment and MMD assessment from phases 1 and 2 of the new development. The new private development is shaded there in yellow and blue on the map there on the right. And again, I mentioned we may use existing Houston Street TERS capacity, both for the city and the county. We would share that equally, but that again makes an assumption that projections for phases 1 and 2 don't exceed our projection, and that phases 3 and 4 never get built. Just a couple of other things I wanted to highlight here. This first one is important. You'll hear the team talk about wanting to build this proposed ballpark being a best-in-class minor league stadium. There'll be other events that will be held there as well. So we want to ensure the long-term viability of the facility, and one of the things that we can do to help with that is to fund, this isn't routine maintenance, but more significant capital maintenance every year and throughout the initial term. So that allows there to be funding there to be addressed facility issues and facility capital needs. That fund would be established once the ballpark becomes operational. It would be funded with a team contribution of $250,000 annually. The city would contribute $500,000 annually, and that would come from the Houston Street Tours. We talked about the best-in-class facility, so we want fans and attendees for events at the facility to have a good fan experience. Part of that is we know we need to have a good traffic security and cleanliness plan for around the ballpark. The city and the team have agreed to continue to collaborate on the development of those plans, and that is something we'll be bringing back in the future. There's been some questions around local participation and Sabeda. The team has agreed that for their primary vendors, if they're not located in Bexar County, that for the design and construction contractors, they're going to be encouraged to joint venture with local partners. They'll be required to do a diversity outreach to identify local, small, minority, veteran, and women-owned subcontractors as they look to move forward with that work. And then on the construction package side, they're going to be assigning goals for their Sabeda subcontractors as well. And those goals are actually going to be set. They're going to work with the city's Small Business Office and Economic Development in order to look at availability for the work that's being done, and then assign a goal, much like we do on our contracts, except in this case it would be a goal. I want to highlight on the next slide, again, some community benefits that are included in the term sheet and the Memorandum of Understanding. There are a number of public amenities in the ballpark that would be available to the public, to include green space, park space, and there is a concourse inside the ballpark stadium that would be available during the day if there are events going to be used as a walking track. The team is going to continue with developing a youth program so that they're going to be giving away free tickets to disadvantaged youth groups and youth. There are stakeholder days included in the term sheet for both the city and the county. We would each get 5 days to use the facility, as long as it doesn't conflict with another event. Stakeholder advertising, we're going to continue to explore this, but the concept here would be we would love, both us and the county, to be able to do public service announcements at the ballpark. The team has asked us to kind of look at some of our channels in terms of maybe making announcements for the team, so we're going to continue to look at that, but we think that's a really good opportunity. The team has also created the San Antonio 1888 Baseball Foundation. Well, they'll be contributing at least $200,000 annually to support local initiatives for children and homeless veterans. The team's going to make an effort to hire veterans for game day operations. And then they are also working on developing a program with SASD that may include internships, access to the facility, and stakeholder days as well. On the wage commitment, I know there were some questions last time, so we went back into the MOU and tried to clarify what our intent was. And the intent and what the team has agreed to do is that for full-time and part-time employees at the ballpark that the team hires, they will be paid a minimum of the then entry wage. So I want to be clear, as we move, or as you all approve movement of our entry wage through our budget process and that changes, this requirement changes with that. So they're going to be meeting that. So we did clarify that in the MOU that we attached to this item on Friday. The other item that came up, there was a question about fair chance, being a fair chance employer, and the team did agree to include into the MOU and the term sheet that the team would continue their practice to ban the box as a fair chance employer and not conduct background checks until after an interview or an offer is made. So that wraps up my part of the presentation. I'm going to now turn it over to Lori Houston, our Assistant City Manager. Lori?
Thank you, Ben, and good morning. So as Ben mentioned, the actual stadium itself will not relocate any business or tenant for the construction of the baseball stadium. However, the new proposed development surrounding the stadium will require relocation of the tenants that currently reside in soap factory apartments. So the city, several council members, along with Weston Urban, have been working on what a relocation plan would look like. And what we have proposed is, one, we know that there are 3 phases of development, and there's 3 phases that will be part of the soap factory apartments redevelopment. So phase 1 is actually starting right now, and it'll go through October 1, 2025. And it includes the redevelopment of the property that you see on the bottom part of that slide. And while we say redevelopment, I want to stress that this does not mean that we're going to be demolishing, or they're going to be demolishing, the historic 1850s limestone property that was the actual original Soap Works project. Phase 2 includes the redevelopment of the property at 601 North Santa Rosa, and is anticipated to start in September of 2027, so about 3 years from now. And then phase 3 is the property at 600 North Santa Rosa, and will start in September of 2029. Now, for those tenants who are part of phase 1, which is September 2024 to September 2025, Weston Urban, who is the property owner of Soap Factory Apartments, has agreed that if there is a tenant that's currently part of phase 1 and they want to stay on property and move to one of the other properties in phase 2 or 3, they will pay for their moving expenses. The application deposit fees will be waived. There will not be any rent increases, and there will be no early termination fee. Now, if they want to relocate to a new unit at the Continental Block Apartments, they will pay for the moving expenses, and the application and deposit fees will be waived. And it's important to note that the Continental Block also includes some income-restricted units at 60% to 80% AMI. So some tenants may qualify to reside in those units. The other option is through a partnership with Opportunity Homes San Antonio, and they're building their Beacon Communities properties. Tenants will have the opportunity to relocate to a unit at Refugio, Hemisview, or 100 Labor, and their application fees and deposits will be waived, and the first month rent will be free, and there are income-restricted units, anywhere from, there are some small public housing units, there are 50% AMI units, and then there are 60 and 80% AMI units as well, along with some market rate. And then there are other Beacon community properties outside of the downtown area that will also be available to the Soap Factory Apartments tenants relocation. And those application and deposit fees will be waived, and they will also receive 1 month's rent free, and those are income restricted. Now, there are many other opportunities for other relocation, but this is the one we partner with Opportunity Home because we know that we have a partner there and they're willing to provide these incentives. But we know that through our database there are some efficiencies available at downtown that are less than $700 a month as well. Phase 2, the Soap Factory relocation plan, is August 2026 through 2027. They'll have the ability to stay on the property and move to another building. They'll still have their moving expenses, no rent increases, and no early termination fee. They can relocate to a new unit at the Continental Block. Once again, moving expenses will be paid and their fees will be waived. And those do have income-restricted units at 60 to 80% AMI, as well as some market rate. They can relocate to a unit that is controlled by Opportunity Home in their Beacon portfolio, and they have several units that might be available and they may be eligible for, and that would Also offer them the opportunity to have their application and deposit fees waived. The first month's rent is free and income restricted, and then relocate to another Beacon Communities property outside of downtown. Once again, we're mentioning Opportunity Home because they are someone that we partner with, but there are other partners out there that we're willing to help the tenants relocate. I also want to stress that residents are only eligible for these packages if they have a lease that's been executed prior to October 1, 2024. And so anyone that has a lease executed afterwards, they will be required to sign a disclosure form noting that they are aware that they have to move by a time certain date. Phase 3, there will be no other opportunity to move into the Soap Factory Apartments property, but you could relocate to the Continental Block. You could also relocate to one of the Opportunity Home units in downtown, or you could relocate to another Beacon Community property outside of downtown. Once again, this is only for those residents that have a lease that was executed prior to October 1, 2024. And if you were to go on the city's website, we do have a home base network that we use, and then there's several other apartment search engines you can go to that kind of pull up what's available in downtown. And so there are other units, and Building Brighter Communities, which is a consultant that Weston Urban has brought on and they're paying for, something that we use, and some of our consulting for residents that are going through some relocation needs. But they will be able to help search for a property for them based on transportation. Maybe they would prefer to be closer to a family member, a different school, but they will be able to help find them a property that may be more appropriate for their needs. But if they want to stay downtown, Building Brighter Communities will help them with that as well. But Weston Urban is going to keep them on for about 5 years through the entire phase 1, 2, and 3 process for Soap Factory Apartments. And they are actually meeting with everyone about 5 times a week, having standing meetings for anybody who wants to come in to the office and consult with Building Brighter Communities or ask questions of Weston Urban. There is an opportunity that 5 times a week. Now, as recently as yesterday, Weston Urban had worked with several council members, specifically District 1 and District 6, and they committed to funding a $250,000 relocation assistance package, and the city would match that. We're proposing to match that with another $250,000 from ARPA funds for a total of $500,000. The relocation assistance package would allow for Phase 1 tenants to receive a $2,500 rental package for the costs associated with leaving the property. And so the Soap Factory Apartments Relocation Assistance Program would be administered by the Building Brighter Communities and funded by the following: $250,000 from Weston Urban. And for the money that Weston Urban provides, there are no income restrictions, and it only applies to current tenants. So any tenant with a lease executed after October 1 will not qualify. And then for the city's funding, which is coming from ARPA, there would be a requirement that they have to be 80% AMI or below and must have lived in the unit for at least 1 year prior to October 1, 2024. But if a Phase 1 tenant decides that they want to stay on property and they want to go to one of the buildings that is set for Phase 2 or 3 redevelopment, they can do that. They would still get the $2,500 for relocation, but they would get that upon exit of the entire property. So they may say, yes, I want to stay here. I want to go to the building across the street. And then when I'm ready to leave, I'll go ahead and take that relocation assistance package for my moving expenses and my first month's rent and everything. So it allows them to have more time to plan, and they'll hold the money until they're leaving the property. Any remaining funding after all Phase 1 tenants have been served may be used for Phase 2 or 3 tenants, but only if that tenant is willing to leave before September 2025. And so we want to make sure that we are helping the ones that really only have a year to plan for. The other phases, they're happening in 2027, that's 3 years. 2029, that's another 5 years. So there's planning time there. But this year, I want to make sure that we're helping those be able to plan for their next move. And we are here to help them through Building Brighter Communities to identify that new location and help them identify any movers or any other staff that they may need to help them with that move. So our next steps would be to do a funding agreement with Builder Brighter Communities. It would be a funding agreement for the $250,000. That would be included in the budget ordinance, the closing budget ordinance. And then we would also work on the creation of San Pedro Creek Development Authority, and that would be done in 2024. The creation of the Municipal Management District in 2024. The Houston Street TERS, we need to adjust the boundary for new development parcels currently in the West Side TERS and extend the term. The West Side TERS, we need to increase the city participation rate from 90 to 100% and extend the term in 2024. We need to negotiate and develop other development agreements. There's a lot more to do. They have to do the economic development agreement in 2024, the team lease in 2025, the development agreement in 2025, bond indenture and other funding documents in 2025, and the TERS funding agreements in 2025. And then we also need to look at expanding the downtown public improvement district around the stadium and the new development so they can get those additional services that other parts of downtown benefit from. Staff's recommendation for today is to approve the Memorandum of Understanding among the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, Designated Builders, LLC, and Weston Urban Management, LLC, as presented to City Council on September 12, 2024. So myself, Ben Gorzel, Eric Walsh are here to answer any questions. I would like to bring up Weston Urban, Randy Smith, to say a few closing remarks, and of course the team and Weston Urban are here to answer any questions for you all as well. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council. I want to get to some commitments that we want to make in a minute, but I want to just take 2 steps back. Councilwoman Villagran, Councilwoman Vito, I want to make a new commitment. Those young men and women from Sol Ross were special, and so we just want to commit to having them out to a ball game. I think more San Antonians should hear that young lady's voice. That was very special. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. A special thank you to Eric and Lori and Ben and all of you for the tireless work on this over the last couple weeks. I'd also like to thank the groups that took time to meet with us and volunteer your time. We are grateful for that. On behalf of the 30-some-odd owners of the San Antonio missions, we'd like to express not only our gratitude but our enthusiasm. We've spent the last 2 weeks doing 2 things, which is listening and leaning in. You've heard me say this a couple of times now, that this is a process and not an event, but today I'm really saying that to ourselves. The listening and the leaning in does not stop at the conclusion of today's vote. On this, you have the commitment of our entire group, all of us. The plan that Ben and Lori laid out for you today is a plan that we're very proud of. It's a plan that each of you and staff have worked and fought very hard for. And it sets a new standard for redevelopment in our city. That said, I think we all know that there's no perfect plan. And even if there was, there are no perfect humans on our team to execute that plan. But we heard you, and we heard the community, and we have come alongside each other to arrive at where we are today. And I would like to pause here on this point of coming together. I don't think that I can address this council without acknowledging the leadership of you, Mayor, and the whole council, and in particular, Councilwoman Kaur and Councilwoman Cabello-Haverda. When you asked if we would follow your lead to provide more help to these families, that is what set the tone for the unprecedented plan before you. And so thank you. In closing, there is a lot of work to do between now and opening day of 2028. And that might seem really far off to some. But we feel like it's going to be here in a minute, and that work must start today, and we have to hustle. And all 30 of us are proud to hustle for you and for this community. But as you know, our commitments to you on paper go far beyond 2028. But even that doesn't really capture what I'm trying to express today, which is that we're a local group. We are from here. As you have seen, we're not going anywhere. And so our commitment to you as San Antonians and our commitment to this community of San Antonians has no expiration date. And so thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Ben and Lori, for the presentation. We do have a number of folks signed up to speak today, many folks. So in light of that, to make sure everyone gets heard, speakers individually will have 2 minutes, groups up to 6 minutes. I'll call names in order of sign-up. I'll call the next name on the list. If you can be prepared to come forward, we'll move through this expeditiously. I'll start with Charlie Amato. Mr. Amato, you'll be followed by Ralph Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I appreciate it having me today. My name's Charlie Amato. I'm chairman of SWBC, a financial service firm headquartered here in San Antonio. And also, I come before you today to speak to you as a businessman and resident of downtown San Antonio. Our city is a true gem, and it's time to harness downtown investment opportunities in a way that will produce safe and thriving downtown. The Alamo, UTSA, Frost, Western Urban, all are making significant investments in downtown. But to have prosperity, it takes all of us in the community to complement their investments. I personally, along with Chuck Grimm, going to make a personal investment downtown. We're going to build a dream hotel on Soledad Street, and we're going to break ground in 2025. Having sports and entertainment alongside these developments will have such a direct positive impact. A new stadium in downtown will not only bring more visitors to our area, but also residents who are interested in living in an urban environment that has so much to offer. I understand Western Urban has promised, as part of their agreement with the city, to put $1 billion worth of development on the ground in and around the baseball park, including more than 1,500 apartments, hotel, parking, and restaurant in space, store space. Having this kind of investment to complement affordability that baseball will bring to so many families of all incomes is a true win-win. It's important to note that under the current plan, public tax dollars will not be used to finance or construct the ballpark. Again, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to speak in support of this new downtown development and for your consideration and support as well. Thank you all very much for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Amato. Ralph Garza. Mr. Garza, you'll be followed by Sergio Dickerson.
Hello, my name is Rafael Garza, and I wish to give my minutes to Marisela Garza.
Maricela, you're not signed up to speak, but if you'd like to take 28? Okay, you'll have 4 minutes, Ms. Garza.
Hello, my name is Maricela Garza. I am with the Gardendale community. Gardendale, and I am president as well of this Gardendale Neighborhood Association. Gardendale Neighborhood Association borderlines the boundaries of the proposed Mission Stadium baseball field, and we are here to share our support with having the stadium built in the downtown central west side area. When we learned about this new project, we gathered with some Gardendale community members and we got some feedback. And we were able to see that there are several benefits that would come to our area from having the stadium built in our section area. One of those things would be that it would bring increased revenue for the downtown central west side area. A second thing is that it would bring job creations for individuals that live within the community that can walk to work back and forth. Can also bring beautification and safety to the area by dedicating attention to the maintenance and through the heightened police security and presence that it would bring. Number 4 is that it would bring business growth by attracting new businesses to our area and also boosting the sales of those businesses that are already established in our area, fostering therefore economic growth. As number 5, we feel that it would bring appropriate and good progress to the downtown development. You know, we already have areas in San Antonio that are already thriving with good development. We have the Pro Brewery, we have Southtown, we have La Tuna, and then many other areas that are also positive, growing with good projects. We are asking that the council approve this project to move forward because it is downtown Central's time for appropriate growth. And as we move forward, we do also ask that the community be kept involved in the process and that every decision be made with the best interest of community residents in mind. Stand by your commitments that are being said and proposed, and this is what we ask for as community members for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. Sergio Dickerson. Mr. Dickerson, you'll be followed by David Adelman.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for seeing me today. My name is Serge Dickerson. I'm the president and CEO of the American GI Forum. We provide services to veterans, non-veterans. We provide housing, employment, and we've been doing that here in San Antonio for the past 51 years. We're very proud of it. Why am I here? I'm here because I am ground zero for where the new stadium's going to be, our headquarters building here in San Antonio. So it's very important to me. And when Randy showed up at my office, I said to myself, I better start paying attention because I'm going to be moved. But Randy sat down and he listened to what our mission is and what we needed as an organization and how we can better serve veterans. And then he said, we're going to help you. Of course, I'm a show-me-state kind of guy, so I wanted to see that he was actually going to do what he said. And he came through on all his promises and then some. We moved to another location within the same strategic location that we needed to serve our community. And right now we're doing that in that facility. So he honored his word. In addition to that, he said that he would help us get jobs for veterans. Not just the veterans that are in the community, but the veterans that are transitioning from many installations from Fort Bliss, Fort Cavazos, all the way down to Lackland and Fort Sam. And so that, for us, was important because we're able to place those veterans in San Antonio, and now you have veterans that want to come to Military City because there are jobs, there are prospects for those jobs for them to come to. So on behalf of the NVOP, our board of directors, and myself, I strongly support the initiative to move Mission to the heart of San Antonio. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. David Adelman. Mr. Adelman, you'll be followed by Omar Gonzalez.
Thank you, City Council. So I probably don't need to remind you guys, but we've had some significant departures in the office environment in downtown San Antonio. We just lost Vision Works, 150,000 square feet on Houston Street. We personally lost PricewaterhouseCoopers. They moved out to the Concord building. USAA vacated nearly 500,000 square feet downtown. We need significant change. We need significant vision. You have an incredibly competent city management team that has negotiated an unbelievable agreement. But what we need is vision and leadership for downtown in a big, big way. And what we really need is more downtown housing. Housing is what's going to transition us from an office environment to a thriving downtown that's not only tourism, not only the great things that UTSA is doing downtown, but is open for many, many more residents to live, work, and play downtown. So for that leadership, I brought this, and I'm going to ask you guys to set a goal. 10,000 new residents downtown by 2030. And to get there, you're going to have to set some policy. You're going to have to really encourage the city leadership team to work hard and support this decision today for what Weston Urban and the baseball team are doing. It will be catalytic for downtown, and it will help to achieve a real goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adelman. Omar Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, you'll be followed by Nolan Shea.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Omar Gonzalez. I work as the Director of Development for Oxbow Development Group. But I'm actually going to start with something fun. I'm a Sandlot baseball player for Los Tigres de San Anto. Sandlot is a mix of players who celebrate the culture of baseball. And as you probably know, professional baseball started in San Antonio in 1888. And so what a great honor to continue that tradition of baseball. I think it's part of our culture in San Antonio. And as a baseball player and advocate, big fan of having a stadium downtown. So my second point is I was the former chair of ULI, the Urban Land Institute, the San Antonio chapter. As an urbanist and as someone who's studied urbanism throughout the world, you do see the successful downtowns have areas where the community can gather, and professional sports in downtown has been proven to be an effective strategy. So another big check for why a stadium would make sense in an urban setting as opposed to in a suburban setting. And then finally, as a local developer in town, I would say very few people, and you've kind of heard this before, but very few people have the courage, the honesty, and the integrity that Weston Urban does. I'm a very big fan of Randy Smith and his group. They are committed to San Antonio. They are passionate about San Antonio, and I believe they've assembled such a great team that they're going to give us something that we can truly be proud of. So highly recommend that you all approve the MOU and continue the conversation towards baseball in downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Nolan Shea. You'll be followed by Patrick Stolmeyer.
Good morning, City Council. I hope everyone's having a good day. My name is Nolan Ches. I'm a 20-year-old student who goes to the University of Incarnate Word, and I'm originally from Minnesota. So as far back as I can remember, I always loved going to baseball games with my dad. Some of the best memories I had as a child was going to a Twins game, getting a hot dog and some peanuts and trying to catch a fly ball, bring it home and call it mine. Recently, my friends told me about the possibility that a baseball stadium would be built in downtown San Antonio, and hearing the idea of that just brings back all those memories I had as a child. I can tell you as a student athlete with firsthand experience that it's about more than just baseball. It's about bringing the community together. It's about showing the people of it's about showing the students of San Antonio what this city has to offer. As I said, I'm a student athlete, and at times my schedule isn't the most flexible. I can't work a regular job because I have many things I have to take care of. So baseball games, in my opinion, are an affordable alternative to that. I don't have the income where I can spend money on Spurs games or other college football games, so something like a minor league baseball stadium would be a great alternative for that. To wrap it up, I believe that this stadium would bring a strong incentive for students like myself to stay in San Antonio post-graduation, as it offers a plethora of various things for us to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ches. Patrick Stolmeyer. Mr. Stolmeyer, you'll be followed by Daniel Zamora.
I have Chris, who couldn't come, and he's also signed up. Chris Stolmeyer. I'd like to take his time also, please.
Yeah, Mr. Stolmeyer, if Chris is here, he could cede your time to. If he's not here, you can take your minutes.
He's not here.
Okay, so you
Thank
have
you,
2
sir.
minutes. Yeah.
There's a couple things that I have questions on the financing. One of those is, how many years is the tiers dedicated for this project? That's number one. And what percentage of the tiers is allocated to the stadium? And I've got some reasons to be concerned about that. The first thing, on the baseball stadium, I did some research on what it costs for a top-tier AA minor league stadium. And these are current numbers. Columbus, Georgia's baseball park is going to be renovated. It's 98 years old by Populous, which is the top stadium architect in the world. Many of the things that have been said about this stadium are right out of the press release from the stadium in Georgia, which is going to house I believe it's the Atlanta Braves AA. If you look at the renditions, they're brilliant, gorgeous, have everything, complies with Major League. It's luxury, and it's $50 million. Now I'm going to move on quickly to the reasons why I've got concerns. I'm president and CEO of Stollmeyer Holdings. Our family has a high pedigree from MIT. Since 2005, we've been bringing economic development and businesses to San Antonio. In 2005, we brought the top-rated university in the world for the last consecutive 13 years to San Antonio. An agreement that my family created, cooperative participation, research, development, and commercialization agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Stolmeyer. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Do I get 2 more minutes?
No, sir. Chris has to be here to cede time to you, so
I've
everybody
got
gets 2
something
minutes.
that's going to be real interesting.
If you have something to distribute, we can get it to council in writing.
Yeah.
You can give it to our clerk.
Thank you.
Mr. Stolmeyer. Daniel Zamora. Mr. Zamora, you'll be followed by Jenna Sacedo Herrera.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Daniel Zamora. I'm a retired San Antonio police officer. I retired in 2021, and I was fortunate enough and honored to, during my time with the San Antonio Police Department, or at least about the last 20 years, to be the director of a program called the Police Athletic League. I'm sure you all might know about the PAL program. It was an outreach to inner city children through sports programs, primarily through sports programs. And I had the fortune of having the total support of Chief McManus, because he grew up as a PAL kid in Philadelphia. Through my conversations with him, he told me about that. And I was also very fortunate to have some very good partnerships. And one of the partnerships I had for my community outreach to inner city children was with the Missions Baseball Organization. Every summer, we ran the Missions Rookie Baseball League through the Missions Baseball Organization. They paid for every single expense every year, and we did that over the last close to 30 years. That's what it's been. And it was an excellent relationship we had. They would provide all the money. We would buy all the kids their uniforms. We would buy them their whatever they needed for the games, their water, anything that they needed. And it was an excellent relationship that we had with Burl Yarbrough and Jeff Long and the rest of their staff over there. One of the key things that the missions would do every year, wherever our game sites were, they would bring out all their ball players. Well, not all of them, but a lot of their ball players. And the ball players got to interact with all the kids. And that was a dream for a lot of these kids. And again, the missions have been doing this for close to 30 years now. And I have total support for the building of a new stadium, because I know that would continue into the future.
Thank you, Mr. Zamora.
Thank you for your time.
Jenna Sacedo Herrera. You'll be followed by Alan Gonzalez.
Good morning, Mayor Nirenberg, members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today, along with so many other diverse San Antonians that are speaking in favor of this baseball stadium. I am proud, as a native San Antonian and our region's economic development leader, that we are having this conversation on something that is so significant for San Antonio. And humbly, I just thank you for thinking big and thinking forward. We are at a critical point in the economic trajectory of San Antonio, and these types of decisions will inform our progress for decades to come. This project that I hope you will approve today will inject a whole lot more economic impact than the $1 billion in assessed value that's been quoted. This project will ultimately change the landscape of SATX for the next several generations. In my line of work, I have the privilege of selling San Antonio to CEOs all over the world for job-producing investments, and we know that there are only two things that matter in our economic development pursuits. It's our people and our place. This City Council and our city leadership continue to invest boldly in our people through programs like Ready to Work, and in our place through the San Antonio Airport expansion, which, by the way, don't sleep on that agenda item that you approved, because those revenues from those lease agreements will fully fund our airport expansion plans. Now, with these big investments and people in place, our private business leaders have stepped up every step of the way to engage with Ready to Work, to hire participants, to fund Alamo and Bold Promise initiatives, and also to financially support air service expansion. That's because we are one team. We are one community. We are one SATX. This private-public opportunity is no different. It's an investment in our place that ties back to our broader economic mobility strategy. Our residents and young people deserve a vibrant and fun urban core that they can be proud of. In closing, I am beyond grateful for this group of local owners who've stayed the course. I know them personally, and they are people of character, committed to building a better San Antonio for you, me, and our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sacedo Herrera. Alan Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, you'll be followed by David McGee.
Good morning, mayors, neighbors of mine, and City Council. First City Council meeting and first time speaking up here, so incredible day so far. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everybody here, and thanks for honoring that. Mariachis were beautiful. Again, my name's Alan Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of Business Development for Galaxy Builders. We build multifamily. We're a local San Antonio builder. We've been here for 33 years, since 1991. We build here in San Antonio and all over Texas, but we work with developers, and we focus on low income, we focus on workforce, we focus on affordable housing, we focus on market rates, and just basically providing multifamily living opportunities. On a personal note, I'm second generation San Antonian. My dad was born and raised here, 1994, right here downtown at Nick's Hospital. It was right there on the Riverwalk. I graduated from Churchill High School. When my dad was in school, going past Loop 410, that was like going to the boondocks. They're dirt roads. When I graduated from high school in 1998, 1604 was our outer loop. I felt like I was going to Egypt if I was visiting friends that live north of there. So with my time here in San Antonio, I've been here before developments of the quarry. I've been here before developments of the Pearl. And after my daughter graduated from Johnson High School up north, we decided to move downtown San Antonio. And a lot of my colleagues and friends and family are looking for reasons to move down here. Now, I can walk here from my house. I can walk here from my home. Downtown is very important to me. Some experiences and memories of me growing up are actually going to other cities because they had sports entertainment opportunities. Just recently with my son in Seattle, San Diego, Denver. These are major cities that we can look to for inspiration in leadership. And I'm certainly a huge fan of baseball and a fan of what you guys are doing here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. David McGee, you'll be followed by Derek Basie. Derek Basie.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council members and City Manager. I'm David McGee. I'm the CEO of Amegy Bank here in San Antonio. And I want to make just a couple of comments about this project, and I'm here to advocate in favor of it. But a couple of quick comments. First of all, the investors, the owners of the team, these are iconic members of our community. These are people who have gone before us, who have set examples of servanthood and sacrifice and leadership. And in many ways, the prominence that San Antonio has achieved in many ways is attributable to these leaders. There's no question about their heart and affection for San Antonio, and I'm confident as they move forward that they will conduct themselves in that same manner. On the developer, this isn't some developer from out of town that we don't know, from Los Angeles or Houston or Dallas. It's people that we know, and they're people that have a huge care factor for downtown San Antonio, and they've proven that. But I'm a banker, and I have to remind you that they are bearing the full financial risk of this transaction, and it's an enormous transaction. And then on more of a selfish note, we've talked about these amenities being a way to attract talent and to retain top talent to San Antonio. And if you haven't heard, I recently announced that we are moving the Central Texas headquarters of Amity Bank to downtown San Antonio. And these are thank you. We want to be a part of the positive change that goes forward in downtown San Antonio, and we think that we have a responsibility to serve the community and show leadership by our huge financial commitment to downtown. And so it'll really help us and other businesses to really attract and retain talent into San Antonio. Okay, so as council members, you're wondering, what have I missed? If you've missed something, I can tell you it's going to take 15 to 20 banks to do this project, and they're not going to miss anything.
Thank you, Mr. McGee.
Thank you.
Derek Basie. Mr. Basie, you'll be followed by Taylor Amy.
Good morning, Mayor and Mayors of City Council. I'm Derek Bays, General Manager of the San Antonio River Authority and head of the agency responsible for San Pedro Creek and the San Pedro Creek Culture Park. I'm here representing SARA and the elected Board of Directors of SARA. In 2018, alongside thousands of community members, we celebrated the grand opening of the first phase of the unique San Pedro Creek Culture Park, located in this historically significant western corner of downtown and the birthplace of San Antonio. The Culture Park symbolizes transformation, having converted a concrete drainage ditch in the heart of downtown into a vibrant cultural space that celebrates our rich history and diversity. As the agency responsible for the operations, maintenance, and activation of the Culture Park, the River Authority has a vested interest in the proposed development district and stadium on the banks of the creek. Over the last 6 years, the $300 million investment by Bexar County and others in the creek has led to significant economic growth and economic development for both the city and the community, such as UTSA's expansion, the Frost Tower, and the new federal courthouse. Partnering has been key to this success. The River Authority welcomes the opportunity that a proposed ballpark and development district could further bring to the Culture Park, continuing the transformation that began 6 years ago and enhancing the visibility and use by both locals and visitors. We look forward to collaborating with city and county officials and the ownership group to ensure the project is designed with the highest standards that prioritize stormwater management, water quality, and trash mitigation that protect the community's prior investments and the creek's health and cleanliness. Cooperation such as this underscores San Antonio's commitment to responsible development and environmental stewardship moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bays. Dr. Taylor Amy, you'll be followed by a group. We have Father Jimmy Drennan, Mike Phillips, and Tamara Benavides.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation on behalf of UTSA and as president of that wonderful institution, my institution. I'm here in support of this measure. I want to thank you for going big and going bold with this. And it reminds me of the strategic partnership that we have had in investing in UTSA's growing presence downtown. We are all in on downtown. Why are we all in on downtown? It's foundational to our efforts around driving workforce and economic development. This project is important to us and to me for three really important reasons. One, our baseball program is resurgent, and Coach Hallmark has done a wonderful job of making us relevant at the national level. The opportunity to have tournaments, play some of our regular season games, and to host NCAA regional games in this stadium would be marvelous for our program. That's a home run for us, no pun intended. No one laughed. It's also important, as you know, because we are deeply investing in downtown, and this stadium would be adjacent to our Southwest campus. You know, we're in the final stages of purchasing One Riverwalk Place. We are in the business of placemaking. Having this stadium next door to that is critical to our placemaking efforts. And finally, you all know that we're going to go and open up our new College of AI, Computing, Data, and Cybersecurity in January of 26, and that means we're going to be bringing 6,000 students, faculty, and staff downtown who are going to be residing downtown. We have a lot of work to do on the housing side. But I go back to my days a long time ago as a college student in Boston. The mayor will know this. If you were to go to Fenway Park in May, June, July, and August, almost half the stadium was filled with college students going to a baseball game. The ability to placemake for the students that we're bringing downtown to live downtown will be profoundly impacted. So thank you, and please support this.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. I misspoke on the names of the group. We have Father Jimmy Drennan, Mike Phillips, and Stuart Blanton, and you all have 6 minutes.
Good morning. I am Stuart Blanton, COPS Metro leader at Greater Joy Temple Church of God in Christ on the west side and board chair of Ella Austin Community Center here on the east side. COPS Metro is not opposed to the mission statement, stadium and or economic growth for San Antonio, but not at the expense of its residents. At the hearing last week, we had concerns about how the deal was rushed and not transparent. We are here today to make clear that our work over the last week to negotiate for community benefits is in the MOU. We met with the city manager and owners of the Missions baseball team and developers to discuss our 5 parameters for community benefits. These items were presented to you in that last council meeting to identify what we must have in that MOU, including the $2,500 moving allowance to ensure that the soap factory residents are made whole and all project decisions are presented openly. And there must be an independent ombudsman that monitors how the residents are being relocated to ensure no one falls between the cracks. Today's vote will approve the MOU, but know that COPS Metro will continue to watch each of the phases of this project and hold the city and developers accountable to the plan we agree on. Thank you.
I'm Mike Phillips, COPS Metro leader with First Unitarian Universalist Church. COPS Metro is proud to claim victory for our community, ensuring community benefits are now part of the tax-funded Downtown Mission Stadium project, thus creating a fairer deal for San Antonio residents. COPS Metro has been in negotiations with elected officials, city council members, city staff, Western Urban, SAISD officials, institutional leaders, community leaders, and local residents. At the August 29th council meeting, COPS Metro leaders put forward a list of benefits, community benefits and systems of accountability that we wanted to be part of this deal, and we're pleased to announce that these conversations have led to our demands being reflected in the MOU, which will be voted on today. These include a commitment to assist soap factory residents with relocation support to a developer-owned apartment complex or other option of their choosing, a provision of $2,500 per apartment to compensate for additional expenses related to the relocation, and assurance that the city manager's office and the city council will monitor and report on the relocation process regularly. They will also provide evidence of compliance with city requirements regarding living wages for workers at the stadium complex.
I'm Father Jimmy Drennan, the pastor of St. Margaret Mary Catholic Church with COPS Metro Alliance. I want to begin by stating one more time that COPS Metro Alliance is in favor of economic development for the city of San Antonio, and we are also fans and supporters of the missions. So we want everyone to know that. But we also want everyone to know that we are concerned about the citizenry of San Antonio, your constituents, to make sure that they are considered in every step of the way. I also want to note that we are here as members of COPS Metro Alliance representing every council district in the city of San Antonio, and our organization has deep roots here and will continue to flourish in the city of San Antonio. I come to you just a week and a half after visiting with His Holiness Pope Francis. I was invited as part of a delegation of IAF, COPS Metro Alliance included in this delegation, and met with Pope Francis, where he reminded us that the work that we are about is to make sure that those who are seemingly insignificant and on the peripheries of our community are always considered as essential and equally important. When we look at this experience, we are keenly aware that doors were opened, conference rooms were made available, and seats were placed at the table for billionaires, millionaires, and developers. We were told that this was happening so quickly that we didn't have time to invite the residents, COPS Metro Alliance, and the citizens to be involved in this. I want us all to be aware that for 12 years now, we have been very aware that this has been unfolding. In an article in the Express News dated the 17th of December in the year 2012, every single player that is currently involved in this proposal and every location was noted. We were fully aware that this was happening, and it was brought again to us 2 years ago. We are keenly aware that all of us need to be invited to that table, and we will accept nothing less than that. The citizenry of San Antonio needs to be treated in the same way that developers and billionaires and millionaires are treated in this community. We have been, for 50 years, the conscience of the city of San Antonio. You remember our history. There were times when we did not have representation on the city council from our neighborhoods because it was not allowed. There was not equitable distribution of resources for the entire city of San Antonio. Just wages were overlooked over and over again. COPS and Metro Alliance have worked tirelessly to ensure that these are the hallmarks of what will make San Antonio great. It will not be in buildings. It will not be in high rises. It will be in how we treat our people. We expect to be included in the upcoming discussions for the Spurs Arena, and we want to have the first seats at that table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father Jimmy, Stuart, and Mike. All right, next we have John Beaucamp. You'll be followed by Lauren Sharp.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. I will be brief. I'm John Beecham. I'm the president of Hickson Properties. I'm also the current chair of Centro Partnership. I'm a strong advocate for this project, and I want to commend not only the mission's ownership, but the development group and the city for putting together such a creative financial structure that should work for all. My message is this. I've been involved in downtown development now for over 25 years. It is hard, and making a difference and making changes to downtown, one project at a time, very, very difficult, very, very challenging. Every once in a while, you get that rare opportunity to make a difference that's strategic and takes us to the next level. This is one of those very, very rare opportunities. I encourage you to take it.
Thank you, Mr. Beecham. Lauren Sharp. Lauren Sharp. Pete Pena. Mr. Pena, you'll be followed by Andy Tidwell.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I just come to you as a lifelong resident of District 1, specifically 5 Points. We will be the first neighborhood north of the stadium, less than a quarter mile, about 600 steps from the first property line of the stadium. I encourage you to vote for the stadium, and I'm in support of it. The missions have a lifelong history here. Growing up, I followed them when they were the Dodgers playing at St. Mary's University. I remember seeing Earl Hershiser, Mike Piazza, and my lifelong idol, Fernando Venezuela, play here. Missions have been a doorstep or a career starter for many MLB players, and I hope it stays that way, especially in downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Andy Tidwell. Mr. Tidwell, you'll be followed by Devin Elder.
Hello, I'm Andy Tidwell. I'm a 19-year resident of San Antonio. You've heard a lot already. I don't need to repeat of the benefits of the arena being relocated to downtown, of all the additional hotel, restaurants that will bring. Not only will also, I want to point out, be a central location and not where all the Metroplex can get to it very easily. I am a north resident, but within 20 minutes of downtown. We frequent downtown quite a bit because this is a beautiful downtown. It's a tourist attraction town, and that's another addition to this tourist attraction, a ballpark. It'll bring a lot of tourists. Most people stay more than one night, so there's additional reason. Let's stay around and watch a ball game. I witnessed this downtown locations and my business trips to Oklahoma City. I've seen their ballpark, stayed next to it, witnessed it, a beautiful place, the hotels, the restaurants. I've been to Amarillo, the little town there, not too little, but they have a ballpark downtown, brings people in, restaurants, hotels. The benefits is unbelievable. I don't need to repeat all that's already heard. One gentleman stole my line. It's a home run for a city of San Antonio, and I support it totally 100%. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. Devin Elder. Mr. Elder, you'll be followed by John Petusa.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, and neighbors. Thank you for having me. My name is Devin Elder. I am the CEO of DJE Texas Management Group. Born and raised in San Antonio, UTSA grad. My first real job was at Rackspace, and I want to thank Graham for creating opportunities for myself and thousands of other San Antonians. Today, we manage and own housing for about 5,000 San Antonio residents. We're headquartered across the street in a vacant building. We made our headquarters. We've got a lot of other projects downtown, creating more housing downtown, creating hospitality concepts, and some other businesses down here. So we are thrilled to see the progress here on this new stadium, and we wholeheartedly support it and look forward to seeing it come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. John Pentusa. Mr. Pentusa, you'll be followed by Ali Guerrero.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to come before you today. My name is John J. Pentusa, and I'm president of the Italian Society in San Antonio, which, as you may know, is right adjacent to the property that is going to be developed. I want to bring a little bit different perspective to you. That area down there was Little Italy. For those of you that do not know, it was the original Little Italy. All of my family, my ancestors grew up, came here from the old country, grew up in that area. And all that's left right now, after what some of you may not remember, urban renewal in the 1970s, promised economic development. All that's left right now is some multifamily units and mostly parking lots. My father and the rest of the Italians grew up playing in that area, and they would be very, very happy to know of this revitalization. And on behalf of them, I'd like to tell you that thank you for bringing baseball back to the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betusa. Ali Guerrero. Ms. Guerrero, you'll be followed by J.J. Jimenez.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Ali Guerrero. I am on the Board of Directors for Greater Helotes Little League. I have been the Director of Fundraising since 2011, and I've worked closely with the San Antonio Mission since that time. Greater Helotes Little League is probably one of the 3 top Little Leagues in San Antonio. In the spring, we typically have like 1,100 children that play at our Little League. We're located in far northwest Bexar County, and we are a 100% volunteer and a 100% self-funded nonprofit organization. We get, unfortunately, no help from the City of San Antonio or the City of Helotes or Bexar County. We rely solely on donations, sponsorships, and our concession stand for income. In 2017, one of the assistant GMs for the San Antonio Missions, Mickey Holt, came to me with a new idea about a fundraising opportunity. We were to sell tickets to one specific night that was set aside for Greater Helotes Little League, and we would get half the proceeds. The missions would get half the proceeds, but technically the City of San Antonio actually got $1 off of each ticket that we sold, so we sell a lot of tickets. It's a great opportunity for these kids. They have a kids clinic prior to each game. All of the players come out onto the field and help the kids learn about fielding and batting and pitching. It's amazing. The kids love it. We also have like a competition in between where all the kids like try to sell the most tickets. Top seller gets to throw out the first pitch. It is awesome for these kids. They also, the top team gets to run out on the field with the players during the national anthem. If we sold X amount of tickets during this pilot program in 2017, they would come out and do a field makeover for our Little League. One of our fields, we have 10 fields. One of our fields would get a makeover. They would all come out and take care of that. It was also very helpful to our Little League. Needless to say, ever since then, we have been partnering with them. We've raised over $115,000 with the missions.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero. J.J. Jimenez. Ms. Jimenez, you'll be followed by Damaso Oliva.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is J.J. Jimenez, Director of Ticket Sales with the San Antonio Missions baseball team. I love this city, and I love this ball club. I grew up in San Antonio, went to Madison High School, played softball, and received both my bachelor's and master's degrees at UIW. Coached youth sports in this community, and began my career with the Missions in 2014 on their game day staff. I knew the Missions organization was where I wanted to be. I fought for an internship and received that in 2016. Since then, I have worked and grown into my position with the team today. I believe sport is powerful in uniting communities, providing a safe space for family entertainment, and most of all, creating unforgettable experiences for all fans. It is an opportunity for people from different walks of life to come together. Strangers walk into a game and leave as friends. Parents grow closer to their children. Companies build stronger bonds with their employees, and charities are able to raise awareness for their respective causes. Sport is everything to me. This team means everything to me. Playing sports is where I learned integral life skills. Coaching gave me the opportunity to give back to the game that gave me so much. My career in sports has afforded me the ability to break barriers, strive for excellence, and build up those around me. Sport has shaped the person I am today. This new ballpark is not just a building. It is a platform for unity in our community. From Little League teams and families to companies and charities big and small, this ballpark is a pillar of strength and will be a beacon of hope for San Antonio. It is our responsibility to use the power of sport for the growth and prosperity of our community. I believe to provide greater opportunity for our city, our fans, and all of our business and charitable partners, a new home, a new ballpark is essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Damaso Oliva, you'll be followed by Heather O'Neill.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. My name is Dr. Damaso Oliva, Jr. I'm a local psychiatrist who has been treating patients in the downtown area since 1960. Oh, I'm sorry, that's when I was born. 1996. I own and operate my medical practice in one of the historic buildings of the Alameda, and right off West Houston. So I have vested interest in this public improvement district that we're discussing today. As a part of this improvement, I would fully be aware that I am subject to current taxes and be levied in the area downtown and West Houston Street. Along with the planned improvements to this area, I am very much in favor of those plans for the new development in our downtown and will willingly pay the taxes that will be impacted and the improvements that we will benefit from. This value gives it to my building and to the historic Alameda building. The plans for the new stadium and the surrounding improvements will also bring new life and business to the area. It will elevate this area of downtown and elevate the city of San Antonio as a whole. A local money has already been spent on this Houston Street development and the expansion of the San Pedro Creek Riverwalk. The fact that the river now reaches this area means further growth and development to this area. You know, the missions have been an integral part of our city and the history of San Antonio intertwined since 1888. This has been a place where my family has been and grown up since I've been a mission season ticket holder since 1994 at this stadium and in San Antonio as a family since 1972. So my kids have chased the puffy taco, they've run the bases, they've been there, and we would love for you guys to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva. Heather O'Neill. Heather O'Neill. Giancarlo Luera. Mr. Luera. Mark Ledford. I'm sorry, you're Heather O'Neill? All right, come on up. Is Giancarlo Luera here? Okay, Ms. O'Neill, you'll be followed by Mark Ledford.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, council members. My name is Heather O'Neill, and I am a small business owner. I own 2 small businesses and one that is located in Southtown called Sweat Equity Infrared Saunas. I'm a strong advocate for this proposal. As of now, the San Antonio Missions baseball field is positioned too far away to draw in the large crowds that it has the potential to due to its current location. The attendance rate is too low and just keeps getting, is too low to justify keeping the baseball field where it currently is. By moving the Missions downtown, it will draw people from all over the city to our downtown community, bringing more economic growth and commerce to the already existing and new businesses to the downtown and Southtown area that are needed, that is needed and more deserved for exposure. This gives people from all corners of San Antonio yet another reason to come to our wonderful downtown with an affordable option to attend a family fun sporting event in centralized area of San Antonio. We need to evolve as a major U.S. city, and this would be a great step forward. Change is hard, and growth takes time and creativity to navigate. Trust me, I know. I opened my business 5 minutes before the pandemic. But in time, I believe we will see this as a positive and lucrative decision that will drive more commerce, prosperity, economic growth, as well as additional housing to our beautiful downtown. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. Mark Ledford. Mr. Ledford, you'd be followed by Jeff Webster.
How's everyone doing today? I've been a season ticket holder of the Missions for 14 years, and I've been to a lot of other stadiums around the state and everything where they have the baseball stadiums downtown, and it's a win-win situation. I talk to the people who work there, I talk to the people who live around there, and they all love it. They say people want to move down there just because the stadium's there. The Missions have been in San Antonio since 1888. That's 136 years. I hope y'all vote this through, because without, you voting this through, Major League Baseball might drop it. So I want the Missions to be around for another 136 years, and it's up to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford. Jeff Webster. Mr. Webster, you'll be followed by Marco Barros.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for the time today to talk. I got to tell you, it's been interesting to listen to all the comments, the red cards, the green cards, the clapping. I've had the opportunity to kick around this building for over the last 30 years. I've been a part of those discussions for the last 30 years, but what we should do with downtown, housing, investment, education. We're trying to create a quality of life, and we've argued about it for 30 years. And I got to admit, I had different comments written down I was going to make, but as I've listened to things, it came to mind that I am so impressed that council sat down and talked to these developers and came up with some issues that were serious, that needed to be addressed regarding housing and redirecting people's lives. But more importantly, this council has not just dealt with a baseball team. They've dealt with a bank coming downtown, the Alamo redevelopment, UTSA's investment. We are doing what we've said we wanted to do for 30 years, and that's invest in downtown. It doesn't come without disruption. As we redo highways around this city, I-10 and 1604, 35 and 1604, 410 on the south, it's disruptive. But we have to make those investments. We have to make those changes. And more importantly, I'm here today to represent the Greater San Antonio Chamber. We just celebrated our 130th anniversary. We started shortly after the mission started in 1888. We started in 1894. We will be here for another 130 years. We will be back in this chamber or someplace similar, arguing over how we develop our downtown and our communities. But the truth is, we're taking a real step forward. We've got a developer who's made commitments not to bet on the come, oh, I'll build it and maybe they'll come. They're building and stepping up and making an investment today that invests in our community in jobs, education, workforce, and small businesses. I encourage you to support the MOU. It is the right thing to do. We have argued for 30 years, and it's time to move forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Marco Barros. Mr. Barros, you'll be followed by Mark Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Marco Barros. I'm going to keep it very short. I think that you all have heard a lot of support today. I'm here on behalf of the board of directors of the owners of over 20 restaurants, the Riverwalk Business Group, to express our support for item number 5. And let's play ball. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Barros. Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson? I know.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, City Council. My name is Stefan Groovberger.
Are you signed up, Stefan?
I'm reading a letter of Mr.
So
Anderson.
I need someone to, if Mark is not here and he wants the letter read, I need someone to read it who is signed up.
Okay.
Are you signed up, Stefan?
I am not, unfortunately, no. Mark had to go, and I have his letter.
Well, we can distribute it to council, but if you want to read it aloud, I need someone to offer Stefan their time. So unless you have someone else in the group, maybe if you need some time to do that, I can move on to the next person. But we'll take the letter, Stefan, and distribute it to council.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
All right. We'll go now to Nita Shaver. Ms. Shaver, you'll be followed by Charles Wooden.
I'll try to speak quickly and not repeat. I am also, my husband and I are downtown residents of 11 years, moved to downtown San Antonio specifically. We wanted an urban lifestyle. We absolutely love it. And if you're considering it, it's a win-win, home run, whatever. And it's, I would say, more economical than a lot of people might think. I think this is a wonderful idea. Imagine in your neighborhood, you drive past a lot and, oh, if they would only put in a garden there, or, you know, this needs to be cleaned up. Well, I feel that way. This is my neighborhood. And of course it belongs to all of us. I understand that. But I think it's a wonderful idea. Strong leadership, Weston Urban. I don't know anyone personally. They don't know who I am. Huge fan. I follow them. I know what properties they're buying. I sneak through. I get in trouble because there's still construction going on. I am curious, and I'm an explorer. There is an excitement downtown. Please continue it. And with UTSA moving in, I want to see lots of students, energy, activity. And Centro is with it with a great leader. So things are happening downtown. Past this. Yes, it's a go. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shaver. Charles Wooden. All right, I'm going to have to ask everybody again to keep the audience reaction to a minimum. People are not going to be hearing their names called, and I want to make sure everybody hears that, because if you don't hear it, I'm going to move on, and you'll lose your time. Charles Wooden.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council, for allowing me to speak today. I'll make this pretty brief. I stand in front of you as a citizen of San Antonio for the past 14 years. I'm originally, though, from Michigan, born and raised just north of Detroit. For the first 19 years of my life, the majority of that was spent in and around Detroit, watching as those stadiums and arenas that were spread throughout the state and not directly in downtown have their own areas where people would go and play. And one thing that you would notice was that downtown was not really doing the best over that 20-year period of time. Over the last 20 plus years, you've seen strong investment from the city of Detroit to move all those teams and stadiums to downtown. And now when you visit, which my most recent visit was just last year, you can really feel the difference. And I think that it is due in large part to that movement. And I highly support this movement because I think it will continue to do the same thing to downtown San Antonio. So I agree, it is a home run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wooden. Tamara Benavides. Tamara Benavides? Okay. Ms. Benavides, you'll be followed by Gabriela Moreno. I'm sorry, you'll be followed by Luis Rodriguez.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Tamara Benavides. I'm the former chairwoman of the San Antonio Hotel and Lodging Association. On behalf of our nearly 300 members, we represent the face of hospitality to millions of visitors to our great city every year. We wish to express our support of the proposed downtown development for our minor league baseball team. SALA's mission is to present a unified voice on issues that are critical to the growth and success of travel and tourism in our community. Having a minor league baseball stadium downtown, along with the proposed developments, provides an excellent opportunity for that growth and success by adding to the vibrancy of our city's core and giving locals new ownership of their downtown as supporters of one of our beloved sports franchises. As an industry that employs 1 in 7 San Antonio residents and pays out over $4 billion annually in wages, one of our best ways the city can support our hospitality workforce is to have a strong downtown with a variety of attractions, green spaces, and events. The stadium will also provide an additional venue downtown that expands our portfolio of convention amenities, which makes us more attractive as a destination for conventions and groups that would otherwise need to look elsewhere for their meetings and events. Additionally, creating a broader convention district grows the walkable footprint of our downtown, allowing visitors to feel more connected to the city and introducing them to projects like San Pedro Creek that they would have otherwise not discovered on their own. We want to thank the city, the team, and the developer for putting together a plan for this ballpark that allows the economic impact from the surrounding development to pay for the investment. We look forward to continued progress for our travel and tourism community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benavides. Luis Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, you'll be followed by Allison Cohen.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, esteemed council members. Luis Rodriguez, I'm the president and CEO of your San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, America's first Hispanic chamber organization established in 1929 right here in San Antonio, Texas. On behalf of more than 800 members, too, are joining me today are small business owners in our community. I rise today in firm support of the ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with Bexar County, Designated Bidders LLC, and Weston Urban LLC for a proposed new downtown minor league baseball team. As San Antonio prepares for this major downtown development, this project presents an unparalleled opportunity to elevate our city beyond sports. It offers a platform to showcase our local culinary talent and retail businesses, fostering long-term economic growth in our community. We require that these recommendations be included in the project's community benefits plan to ensure inclusive economic development. Specifically, we advocate for the use of local prime contractors and subcontractors. In cases where primary vendors for design, engineering, or construction are not based in Bexar County, we urge joint ventures with local partners. Furthermore, we request outreach plans to identify small minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses, ensuring they have the opportunity to become prime and subcontractors on this project for our city's downtown core. We are excited about this new addition to downtown's core and the development's impact on local businesses, inclusion, and economic growth. The Hispanic Chamber stands ready to collaborate with the city, county, ownership, and others to provide the necessary recommendations and bring local minority-owned businesses to the table to make this project a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Allison Cohen.
Good afternoon. My name is Allison Cohen, and I'm the Manager of Government Relations with the San Antonio Apartment Association. The San Antonio Apartment Association is a 501c6 organization representing more than 240,000 housing units across San Antonio and Bexar County. We are here today to express our support for the proposed baseball stadium and surrounding multifamily development. The proposed development will bring approximately 1,500 units of multifamily housing into the downtown core. We believe in the development of downtown, and this project will be catalytic to the area. We ask the council members to support this proposal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Warushka Ustaisen? Warushka? Okay. Brooklyn Ramos? Ms. Ramos, you'll be followed by James Bosher.
Good afternoon. My name is Brooklyn Ramos. I'm a resident at the Soap Factory Apartments, and I am a student at the Alamo College District. Just last night, we have received the plan presented to us earlier. This is a plan that Weston Urban and the council came up with together for us. We felt very rushed as it gave us less than a day to speak it over with our neighbors and practically no time to process it. Most notably, the residents of Soap Factory had no say in the creation of this plan. I would also like to highlight the fact that we as residents have not been in a formal meeting with Weston Urban or the City Council when decisions like this are being made. We understand that every household will receive $2,500, a number that we as tenants had no say in. I also want to highlight that if you have lived at the Soap Factory for less than a year, you do not qualify for the federal ARPA funds being offered. The plan being less than a sheet of paper worth of information is not enough to answer all of our questions or make us feel secure. I want to remind you that we were quite literally just presented with this plan yesterday. Some small details we even learned just now. That says something. The first presentation was significantly changed, since we last saw it. The resident relocation slide was previously called the resident displacement plan and only consisted of one slide. These changes were only made because we as a group stood up and said something. We believe that it is Weston Urban's responsibility to provide his tenants concrete information in this process that affects many. Please include us at the table when negotiating plans that directly have to do with us. We are humans, not a business deal. We, the working people, are what makes San Antonio and its economy, and it's very upsetting to see so many people up here not even considering how this will affect so many lives. This contributes to the lack of quality housing that is affordable in San Antonio. Thank you for giving me a time to speak to you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. James Bosher? You're Mr. Bosher? Okay, you'll be followed by C.L. Lee.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Bosher, and I am also a student at UIW. Now, I need to say, if we had never organized, if we had never spoken up, Weston Urban would have been perfectly happy to not compensate us at all. In response to the recent displacement plan proposed by Councilwomen Cor and Cabello Averda, and I would first like to thank them for trying to help us, but I believe it is important to mention that the agreed amount between the councilwomen and Weston Urban of $2,500 per qualifying tenant is an amount that has still not included an official discussion with the tenants. So far, we have had an unofficial meeting and an event where residents' voices could be heard. And yet, $2,500 is still not something we, as tenants, have agreed upon. So far, you have been willing to listen, and we applaud you for it. But tenants need a seat at the table when agreeing upon an official displacement plan. To reiterate, the number 2,500 is not something we have agreed upon, but this number has been thrown around before. It has been thrown around at a previous city council meeting, but not by a tenant. It has been thrown around on Monday's event, but only by one tenant, not by all of us. Moreover, why is it that the city of San Antonio has to spend money from the American Rescue Plan Act to fulfill half of the amount agreed upon with Weston Urban? Why is it that Weston Urban still refuses to help its own tenants? It pushed off the responsibility with building brighter communities, and it is doing so now with the city, having them spend resources that could be going to those also in need. Lastly, we need to remind City Council and Weston Urban that this issue only begins with us. When building these developments, we need to keep in mind the impact they have in the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. C.L. Lee. Okay. Vivi R. David Luck. Mr. Luck, you'll be followed by Ariel Alvarez.
Yeah, so in every community, there are norms which consist of unwritten laws. Those unwritten laws tend to support values, and collectively, this makes up what is known as a collective moral doctrine. Some communities value order, some communities value profits. What we're saying here about our collective moral doctrine is that we value private development that displaces hardworking people over keeping San Antonio residents housed in the middle of a housing crisis. I know it's a housing crisis because in 2017, you yourself actually made a committee that is aimed at solving what you described as a affordable housing crisis. And we, the taxpayer, are going to pay for this situation, this stadium. Even if it isn't directly, it could be indirectly as well. As you increase the value of a property, it increases the property taxes, not only of that location, but the locations around it. It increases the standard of living. That's why our rent has doubled over these last few years from $500 to $1,000. Now, I don't really think that we should focus too much on what should be. I think we should focus on what is. And these guys actually do keep their word. I've seen that myself, and they are trying to work with us, so thank you. I think that if they're going to build a 1,500-unit apartment to succeed the Soapworks, then some of those units should be set aside for, or that they should at least be somewhat affordable, especially for students. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Luck. Ariel Alvarez. Ms. Alvarez, you'll be followed by Leti Rocha Zvarovic.
Okay, hello, my name is Ariel Sol Alvarez. When I was 12, my family moved into the Soapworks apartments. We lived in Building 3 on the 3rd floor in a one-bedroom apartment. I couldn't imagine back then how hard my mom had to work to make it back from Minnesota to San Antonio, Texas, her generational land. Somehow, I always knew her hard work was for us and the life she always wanted to have. Soapworks is our home. It gave us a better life in San Antonio. It was the first place I ever saw Fiesta, and it was right across the street from our doctor's appointments at Santa Rosa Children's Hospital. I understand Weston Urban's vision for San Antonio, one that will allegedly bring in immeasurable profit and one that will practically pay for itself by raising the property taxes on the area it desires downtown. But something has been terribly wrong in the investments that they have made already in San Antonio, like the businesses in Frost Tower that can't afford to make rent, or the bank that is barely open, and I know that because it's my bank. I fear that the monopoly on real estate and property buyouts has caused so much damage to downtown and to our vibrant working communities and families. Selling people's apartments, their homes, is cruel and unjust. And just like the investments made by other companies in San Antonio, they do not hold up to the hype, while the people of San Antonio suffer the loss of their own resources, being burnt up by investors' projects where our city could be helping its people who live and work in San Antonio, who already feel the effects of inflation and rising costs in our city. The San Antonio that my mother missed and so desperately taught me to appreciate and hold on to was rooted in our friendliness, our community, our culture for sharing and showing compassion and empathy. These homes mean more. They mean a fruitful and loving life to everyone who lives at Soap Factory and who have lived there happily and at an affordable cost and accessibility. While the city that surrounds them continues to go gray and sell out, they are the light that keeps the people from around the world coming back, not shiny new buildings like play toys for major corporations and for city council members who may profit off of them. I urge our city council members to cease the plans for another project by Western Urban and to invest into other resources for our city.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Leti Rocha Zivanovic. Velma Pena. Giles R. All right, if you aren't speaking, I'd ask you to take a seat so folks who are speaking will come to the podium. Thank you.
Hello. How you doing? Yeah, a lot of good talk here. I don't really have anything prepared, but I do live in Gardendale over here, Neighborhood Association. I work with them, and this is right next to our community. We've had Haven for Hope in our area for about, 10, 17 years, something around that. So having this stadium, I'm actually for it, but we saw development of that facility over there. So on our shoulders, we're holding the stress of all of the people in the city coming over there that need assistance and help, and that's great, but we haven't exactly gotten the follow through with services that we should be getting, even to this day. I don't know how many of y'all strap on like non-lethal and lethal every morning to let your family members out of your property. That ain't no joke. Or how many times you got to go out to your yard in the front and shoo away some drug mules or whatever, because we have a high drug trafficking issue in our area right next to the elementary school that has no dedicated security officer or any real security in the first place. So if this stadium is going to come down here and do some nice development for our area, especially Cattleman Square, where we got family-owned businesses that have been there for generations, and they're getting the shaft, honestly. They've got people going in there, cutting up their employees, dash and dining. This ain't no joke, and we got SAPD and BCSO right there. So if this stadium's going to come in here into our area and do something good for us, please do. Because the last time some kind of big development happened, didn't turn out so good for us. That's all I got.
Thank you, Giles. Keith Smith. Mr. Smith, you'll be followed by Philip Adcock.
Good morning, council members, mayor. Thank you for letting me be here. I don't have anything prepared either. I'm not a president or CEO of anything other than my family, but I have been a season ticket holder at the Missions since 1994 when the stadium opened. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for about 3 years, so it was a little brief pause in there. And I was a season ticket holder there. And their stadium was 45 minutes away from the city, and attendance was awful. They built a new stadium downtown. It's sold out every year, probably since, and not enough generation of revenue that it really helped pay for everything. So this stadium is needed by the city. Not to reiterate everything everybody else has said, but baseball is part of San Antonio, and a new stadium would help wonderful things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Philip Adcock. Mr. Adcock, you'll be followed by Antonio Diaz.
Good afternoon. This is a phrase I say hundreds of times to everyone I cross daily in our downtown that I love. As a current resident of the Soap Factory and employee of a downtown business, I am compelled to express my grave concerns regarding the proposal's lack of transparent planning and communication. I hear talk of baseball being a fun night out, but you need affordable housing to return to after a game. San Antonio's approval of a new AA baseball complex will have devastating consequences for us, the residents and employees of downtown. The displacement of individuals should not be taken lightly or hastily voted upon. especially without input from those directly impacted. I've heard the word guaranteed tossed around about money and things all day long, but nothing about the residents. That's just talk at this point. I hear talk of paid expenses and talk of a low number of relocation packages. Are those included in the 25 or whatever number you guys talk about, or is that a separate fund? Why are so many restrictions requiring 1-year lease in order to get real assistance and move-in expenses? It's debilitating to move in and then have to pay those again in less than a year, whether you're moving to the same facility or somewhere else. We're not just units in a complex, we're people, we live and work here. Displacement will have severe negative impacts on our employment, transportation, education, safety, and all other aspects of our life for generations to come. This project, like all the others recently, prioritizes tourist revenue over community needs, threatening to erase the culture of this city. All we're going to be left with is commemorative plaques like we have all over this city, and the people are going to be kicked out. I don't want a city that's just commemorative plaques and memories. I want people to live in their homes and be able to call this city home forever. This is my home, and it's being stripped away from me. I request respectfully that residents be given a seat at the table regarding relocation plans, ensuring accountability from investors to their commitments to meeting housing needs, a delay in the vote to allow for comprehensive understandings of our future, and a guarantee that rent and fees will be frozen until further notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adcock. Antonio Diaz. Mr. Diaz, you'll be followed by Donald Degollado.
Nilsin Qualitlinesi. I have to say something as far as the 16. That was a revolution against Spain, against colonialism, and yet we celebrate as Hispanic Heritage Month. What a joke. We're still colonized. Anyway, that's our city. That's the mentality. And I've heard phrases, which I agree with, that gentrification is just another form of violence. And that keeps on. That is our history, and that is our future, right? It will be ongoing. So violence perpetrated to start this city will continue marching on, regardless of what the original inhabitants or the current residents continue to speak up against. It doesn't matter. Bureaucracy, engage with private industry or private enterprises, don't care as long as they economically keep on uprising. And that is what will happen. Again, we've talked about the Houston TERS and then the San Pedro Creek renovations and improvements. All it is about money and more money. Costing more for the land. I see a neighborhood alliance over here, very close to me. I have a home in Beacon Hill. And they're all for it. They should be against it because they're going to be displaced by it. They're talking against the Haven for Hope, how bad it is, and I agree on that. But poor people need a place to live too. And everybody keeps saying, not in my neighborhood, not in my area. Where then? Where are the people supposed to be residing in if nobody wants poor people or people of low income in their area at all? Hopefully houseless and homeless veterans will be given jobs at this new stadium.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Hopefully. There's no guarantee. No guarantee.
Thank you,
no matter
Mr.
how many
Diaz.
times you say, I guarantee it.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Donald Degollado. Mr. Degollado, you'll be followed by Rudy Lopez.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Donald Degollado. I'm with Clearinghouse CDFI. We are a community development financial institution. We have a presence here in downtown San Antonio. Recently finished the redevelopment of Henry Terrell building. It's a historical renovation. We do provide primarily commercial financing for community development related projects. Just here to say we support the project with the understanding as well. I think I want to echo some of the comments that was made by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. It's very important to get that local buy-in, local economic development. And even taking it further, there's some affordable housing issues that have been brought up. Definitely, I know those are being addressed and just want to encourage that those still continue to be addressed. And even the vendors at the baseball stadium, again, it's about local economic development. Really want to emphasize the importance for local vendors, local contracting opportunities for residents of San Antonio, businesses that are here currently, that are making San Antonio a great place. That's why we're coming here to invest as well, is that we love the trajectory of San Antonio and downtown, and we just feel it's important to continue moving forward with that in mind. Again, thank you for hearing me out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Degollado. Rudy Lopez. Mr. Lopez, you'll be followed by Graciela Sanchez.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm going to give my minutes to Mr. Stefan.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
You have to be
Yeah.
signed up to speak, sir. He has to read the letter.
Okay.
Mr. Lopez, he read just the three of them. Okay, those two. Yeah. You need to read this so much.
All right, here we go. I'm writing to you to express my support of the baseball stadium and related development before you now. As you know, our mission at Visit San Antonio is to welcome the world to San Antonio. This includes attracting the 40 million people that can drive to San Antonio from 500 miles radius. A stronger, more robust downtown is key to continue widening the appeal of our city. San Antonio is known for many things, including being a year-round warm weather destination, the Riverwalk, the unforgettable Alamo and entertainment galore. In certain circles, we are also known as a great sports town, home to the Spurs, San Antonio FC, UTSA, UIW, and of course, Missions Baseball. In addition to our home teams, San Antonio is also known to host great national and international sporting events at the Alamo Dome and UIL state championships. Both leisure travel and meeting groups seek out destinations that offer diverse amenities. You must have a good balance of hotel properties, attractions, and infrastructure, such as walkability and innovative spaces. San Antonio is fortunate to check all these boxes and will only get better with this new development. I respectfully request your support in this development and will grow our city and improve our downtown. Signed, Mark Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Graciela Sanchez. Ms. Sanchez, you'll be followed by Sarah Hunikut.
Wait, don't start. Don't start. Don't start. I haven't started talking and I've already lost. Can we restart?
Can you restart the Go ahead, Ms. Sanchez.
I am Graciela Sanchez, a resident of District 5 and the director of the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center. I was here on the 29th, and since that time, I've talked to many people about this issue. And most people are against it, and partly because it just reeks of corruption. It's ridiculously clear that this plan is designed to put public dollars into the pockets of Graham Weston and his partners, and the 17 white men that run this city and the chambers of commerce that have all been here and all their allies. Part of the plan is to give public funds, Houston Street TERS, West Side TERS, for this project. My God, we barely have any money and you're taking it away from us. And do not take this money from the West Side TERS, which is already the poorest TERS in the city. Then I asked the councilwoman a few months ago about some ARPA funds for housing, and she said all the ARPA monies are gone. And then today we find out there's $250,000 that we can once again give to support this plan by the billionaire Graham Weston and his people. This is a drop in the pocket for him alone to set aside $500,000 out of his own pocket. This plan is also in direct violation of your SHIP plan, which calls for the demolition of 381 affordable housing units, displacing 381 families, and we don't even know the number of people, but we do know they're black and brown working class people, so that they're going to be replaced by market rate housing. This plan reeks of corruption, and today you are being asked to join the corruption to approve this shameful farce. You're being asked to carry out the corrupt payoff, and then you will wonder why people don't trust you, why they choose not to vote. Ask yourself, would you support such corrupt council members? I won't, and the people won't. And those of you running for mayor, we're watching your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Sarah Honeycutt. Ms. Honeycutt, you'll be followed by Luisana Santabanez.
My name is Sarah Honeycutt. I'm a resident at Soap Factory, and I would like to remind us of some of the words shared in this morning's opening prayer. Let us remember our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, the sick, those who have no homes, those who are forgotten, the marginalized, and the immigrants. Grant us the wisdom and courage to know what is right and to do it. Those of us at the Soap Factory would fall into that list. I would ask you to consider not just the legality of your decision on this memorandum of understanding, but the morality. I would ask you to look each one of us in the eye and know our names, not just our unit numbers, and hear our stories, and imagine if we were your child, your sister or father or grandparent or best friend, and I wonder what you would do for them. I wonder if you would fight for them, and I would ask you to think about the value of a human life. What is the cost of a human life? $2,500? I believe the greatest investment you can make in this city is investing in its people. And when you invest in people, everyone wins. All of its people, even the ones like us who are inconvenient. The plan presented to us at 8 p.m. last night, just 13 hours before today's conversation, was not well thought out, was hastily written, and doesn't keep our best interest in mind, nor does it include our voices. Up until today, in fact, the writers of this plan couldn't even remember the name of the nonprofit they've chosen to partner with. They kept saying it's building better communities, but it's building brighter communities. Frankly, we deserve better, and you can do better. And this is your opportunity to make a real positive impact in people's lives, and ultimately the city that we all love. Your legacy can be so much greater than a AA minor league baseball team. What do you benefit if you gain a baseball stadium, tax breaks, kickbacks, high-rise condos, and lose your humanity? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Honeycutt. Luisana Santabanez. Ms. Santabanez, you'll be followed by Luis Alvarado.
Good morning again. Good afternoon. I'm the coalition coordinator for the Coalition for Dignified Housing, and I was listening to Lori Houston assure residents that they would be offered relocation assistance to qualifying families. But that takes away the responsibility of the owner to assume full costs and burdens associated with the displacement that they are causing, which will be well over $3,000, not to mention the priceless emotional strain and social rupture that moving out of their community will cause. The city's relocation fund is a resource for residents across the city facing natural and undue or unforeseen hardship, but for the city to overextend their budgeted resources on an unnatural situation is nothing more than a corporate bailout and should not happen at the expense of taxpayers' hard-earned money. I agree with the Councilwoman Terry Castillo that Weston Urban's claim that this will not cost the city anything is dishonest and an outright lie. Now allow me to read Kayla Miranda's letter that she wrote. She's a public housing tenant and the director of a Coalition for Tenant Justice, and is proudly serving at the Building Standards Board this morning, so she couldn't be here. I'm confused. After years of participating in the city's efforts of a compassionate city, the fact that we have come full circle for me, again, astounds me. I've participated in Right to Counsel for Everyone Homes initiative, The SHIP. I've served on 2022 Housing Bond Committee, 2 city scoring committees, and 1 county scoring committee. Countless meetings. We were promised a lot of things, and now every single promise has been broken. Food for thought, risk mitigation turned emergency housing assistance program. Now rent assistance was a response to Soapworks displacement. Soapworks and Alazan are again in danger. Everything we have worked to change is being reverted. Our waiting list is higher than ever, and for what? Greed of the few at the cost of many. This plan is not for the community. It's not for the benefit of the people residing there. It's for profit. It's the same story over and over again, that this is going to do X, Y, and Z. It's going to help everyone, but for who? Certainly not for the residents being displaced.
Thank you, Ms. Santabanez. Luis Alvarado. Mr. Alvarado, you'll be followed by Jake Tucker.
Hello, my name is Luis Alvarado. I'll be here speaking in behalf of both me and my wife, and I'm just here to urge you to not vote for this yet again, since I was here as well on the 29th. I urge you to not vote for this because it's very, very clear that Western Urban just wants to sweep us under the rug. If they didn't, why else would they have rushed it so much on the 29th? Other things that I would like to mention is, like other residents have said, we are people. We want to be stopped being called as units, because that's all we've ever read or seen from Western Urban, from the news. We are individuals. Everybody in those units has lives, has dreams, has kids, or whatever. So I urge you to not make the wrong decision and choose to destroy all these people's lives, these hundreds of thousands of people's lives, their futures, everything that they're building up. Can't imagine the people that have lived there for 30 years that need a change. Now, for us, that we need to rebuild our whole lives. I wanted to have my children there. I wanted to graduate college here in downtown. I wanted to continue to work here in downtown. And now because of this, it's left a completely sour taste in my mouth. It is not a beacon of hope. It is a beacon of despair, of hate, of I don't want to be in San Antonio because San Antonio is a place that has made me homeless twice because of the choices of the people around me. So I urge you, put yourself in the position of us. How would you feel? What would you think? What would you want to be done? And do not let them give us $2,500. As it is, we do not qualify. And it cost me $2,000 to get into the soap factory, just for them to give me the key. That doesn't count electricity, gas, moving expenses, every other thing that you can think of that you need when you're recovering from homelessness. So I urge you, $2,500 is not enough. $4,500 is not enough. $10,000 is probably not enough either. There's so many expenses. So I urge you to take more time with this than to hurry up and sweep us under the rug like how they wanted to. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Jake Tucker. Mr. Tucker, you'll be followed by Diana Uriegas.
I'm speaking for Pueblo Over Profit. So Pueblo Over Profit stands in opposition to the downtown Mission Stadium deal. We stand in solidarity with the tenants fighting their displacement and the demolition of their home. We stand in solidarity with all who struggle for more public and deeply affordable housing in this city. Today, council is rushed to rubber stamp a backroom deal made between the unelected city manager's office, millionaires, corporations, and other moneyed interests against the will and well-being of their constituents. Ron Nuremberg, for your part, you're selling out our city for your political gain and positioning in the Democratic Party. Doing this through gentrification policies like this stadium deal, transit-oriented development, orchestrating the attack on public housing, and pushing to change the city charter, which includes giving a huge raise to the city manager who makes these deals. Voting yes today green lights the stadium and uproots the lives of hundreds to benefit a well-connected developer. These current tenants already model the lifestyle that TOD claims it develops. They live, work, and play downtown. By voting yes, you are disrespecting them and demonstrating you do not value them because they are the working poor. The Mission Stadium hustle has been years in the making. We fail to see what our city gains from this deal. The prices go up, we lose SAISD land, and losing professional baseball entirely due to the current stadium is not a credible threat. We demand you vote no to the baseball stadium deal because this was no negotiation. It's a handout to mega developer Western Urban, and the Mission's ownership group, which includes a major stake by Graham Weston himself. It did not include the input and consent of your people. Don't pull another CPS rate hike vote where you don't have the backbone to defend your constituents. Council, if you have any respect for the democratic control of public policy, you must absolutely reject this corporate-friendly giveaway. If Western Urban wants to screw over the people of San Antonio, it must be entirely on his own dime and in a place where it does not already have a community. Put people over profit and vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Diana Uriegas, you'll be followed by Parker Dixon. Ms. Uriegas.
I'm here speaking on the stadium. Sir and council, I hope y'all know what y'all are doing because I'm speaking from the heart, you know, and the people from here, from San Antonio. Yeah, we got the billionaire right here. We have the billionaire that wants a baseball field, stadium. You know, it's okay. Hey, we don't mind. You know, as long as he pays for his way to build it. Not with our tax money. I know that y'all saying it's not our tax money. It is. It's part of it. It's on that bond, that TIRZ. It's in there. Our money, our tax money from here. We need drainage. We need lighting. You extended the city, San Antonio City, all the way to 1604. They need roads over there. They still got dirt roads. And y'all are building houses out there. A lot of them. And they don't even have no transportation because the bus don't run that way. Their car breaks, you know, they got to take the bus. If they don't have nobody to take them, they're stuck. We need our money from our taxes to go on the city to build, yes, fix it up. Not to build a stadium for this billionaire. He's a billionaire. He could pay it if he wants it, just like we have to pay. If we want improvement in our properties, we have to pay our way. Everybody's got to pay their way, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Uriegas. Parker Dixon. Mr. Dixon, you'll be followed by Jack Finger.
Good morning, Council. My name is Parker Dixon, as in ballparker. That's how my mom at least told it. I'm a resident of Tobin Hill, an ALA parent, and a former baseball coach and scout. During my career in professional baseball, I worked for the Texas Rangers and the San Diego Padres. However, I wouldn't be here today without the San Antonio Missions. Growing up in Dallas, I was a diehard Texas Rangers fan. In 2015, I got a job offer from the Rangers, and it was a dream come true. I'll never forget when I was with the Rangers AA affiliate and we rolled into town to play the Missions. I can't remember much about the baseball game, but I do remember in about the third inning, I got a tap on my shoulder from a fan in the stands. I turned around to see a beautiful young woman with a small boy. He was a foster child. She was just a good-hearted person taking him out to catch a ball game like a big sister might. I said hi and tossed him a baseball. Then I found a way to get her number, and 3 months later, we were engaged. 1 year later, this is the jersey we wore when we threw out a first pitch at our wedding instead of a first dance. 8 years later, we've just had our fourth baby. I left the dream job with the Rangers and moved to San Antonio to be with her so we could start a family. This is about something bigger. It's about connection. It's about community. It's about building a better urban core for our families, strengthening our downtown, and centralizing our amenities for all to enjoy. And for me, baseball is a love story. I will leave y'all with this quote from the late, great James Earl Jones. The one constant through all the years has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This game, it's a part of our past. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Thank you. Please support the baseball stadium.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Jack Finger. Mr. Finger will be followed by Maureen Galindo.
Mayor Nirenberg, other members of our illustrious San Antonio City Council, my name is Jack M. Finger, and I have some questions for you. What, as a couple of them are leaving us here, what happened to Wolf Stadium? Who allowed it to fall into disrepair? Who failed to upgrade it so that the major leagues wouldn't force us to build something else? And what about all the legitimate concerns about establishing some sort of stadium downtown, whereby, what about the big traffic problems? The big parking problems that a stadium would have. And what about the concern about how suburbanites do not want to travel many miles to that undesirable downtown area just to see a baseball game. You know, the San Antonio Current magazine has a journalist whose name is Haywood Sanders. He routinely writes about your scandals behind the dais there. What recent once said, San Antonio's insider ballpark deal deserves public scrutiny and a public vote. What does he say? For one, it won't cost taxpayers a dime, they assure us. And city officials fought hard to make sure that the well-off owners of the missions actually have to pay something, a whopping 20%. And they say, it all sounds great. What about and there will be no direct use of our property taxes. He says it all sounds great, but it's not entirely the case. The TIRZ, Tax Immigrant Republic Revitalization Zone, yeah, well, that that actually goes to pay for that. It doesn't allow us, the citizens, the tax dollars that we are supposed to have. Tell Mr. Weston to use his own dime for this and not ours, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Finger. Maureen Galindo.
Hi, I'm Maureen Galindo. I am a former Soap Works tenant and a tenant union organizer, grassroots, for the past 9 years. I wanted to thank you guys who did come out on Monday, unless it is that you still vote for the stadium today, and then it kind of just feels like a political show. The next day, I was so excited. I thought that was such a powerful night. And I walk into HEB and see the San Antonio Express News, front cover, 1,500 apartments in stadium plan. Development around proposed ballpark would boost downtown housing supply. So we don't just have a billionaire that owns 85% of the land downtown, but he also owns the media too. If I was Madison Eastler, I would feel a lot of shame, unless it was that her job was jeopardized because Graham Weston himself was like choking her out, which I imagine that may be how a lot of you guys feel right now, is that if you don't vote for this, literally a billionaire may be after you. I get it, that's scary. A lot of you know that I studied community psychology. Participatory action research is my expertise, and participatory action research and policy means that we look at things from a power dynamics level. And so when people who are most impacted by an issue don't have a say in the solutions, then we're not getting any solutions. We have to go down to the people who are most impacted in order to find what the most efficient, effective solutions are. And here there was no public input, and as so many other people have already said, obviously due to a billionaire doing this. And so I just want the tenants to know that for those who want to relocate, I support that. For those who want to stop the demolition of the soap factory apartments, I will do absolutely everything I can to support that too. And I say that as a community psychologist.
Thank you, Ms. Galindo.
But also as a mom.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out to speak today. That is everyone who signed up to speak. We'll get to council discussion in just a moment. Let me just make a few remarks. First, again, thank you to everybody who came out to speak over the last few weeks on this issue. We know this issue touches a lot of different concerns for the community. I do want to acknowledge, just to level set again, so we understand what we're working with here, a stadium proposal to build on a currently vacant part of our downtown, which is going to include multiple phases of redevelopment. Let me be clear, the areas that will be redeveloped are privately owned parcels of property. The areas that will be redeveloped are already going to be redeveloped whether or not there's a stadium built there or not. The opportunity that presents us as a public to get involved in this is not only to deliver a stadium that's been talked about, that the public will own, but also to ensure that any residents affected in that area have a plan for relocation. And let me be clear about that. Had there been no city involvement in this deal, the redevelopment of that property could result in terminated leases, could result in displacement, could result in a number of things that we would have no say in. So I preface all of that to say that, number one, I acknowledge some of the comments that were made by some folks we know very well, suggesting that perhaps we need a vision for downtown. With all due respect, I think we have a vision for downtown. I think we're investing in that vision for downtown. In fact, this community came together, thousands of people from all over the city, in a process called SA 2020, which was largely to re-envision how we wanted the urban core to grow. And then we began the discussion of how we should implement that. So the vision, excuse me, ma'am, I'm speaking. The vision for that is there. The challenge that we have is how we execute that and the choices that we make to either implement the vision or pass on it. Now, I'm not saying that every choice that we make is automatic. In fact, our ability to achieve the goals that we have for this community are somewhat challenging, in fact, very challenging, especially as it relates to things like housing. And when we started that process of re-envisioning what the urban core should look like, we didn't even have a housing plan. Today we have that. We have a housing framework, and we have a strategic housing implementation plan. We are following the guidance of those plans when we execute a proposal like this. I want to thank my colleagues on the dais, Councilmember Corr, Councilmember Cabello-Haverda, all of the members of this City Council, along with COPS Metro, who continue to remind us it's not just about how we execute a plan, how we achieve and implement our vision, but it's also, it's not that we do that, but it's also how we do that, and making the plan stronger with respect to the relocation assistance that is going to be provided in this proposal only strengthen the plan in my view. So again, thank you to my colleagues for making what I believe is a very strong proposal that improves areas of downtown that we've been talking about for a long time, but also does so in a conscious way to make sure that no residents are left behind in the process. And I will remind you that as this moves forward, there is a multi-year effort. No one's lease will be terminated. The first phase redevelopment doesn't happen for roughly another year. So we have a lot of work yet ahead of us to make sure that every resident has a strategy, every resident has the assistance they need. Your city and Western Urban are invested in that. But at the end of the day, this proposal is strong, it's sound, it is one that we stand by with respect to making sure that our residents are taken care of in the process. So I am recommending approval. I will support it, and I'll turn to my City Council now for discussion. Let me first entertain a motion for item number 5.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for approval of item number 5. Councilmember Cabello-Haverda.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, of course, for the presentation. To Stephen Zamora, I don't think he's here today, who I understand was elected by the soap factory residents, Randy Smith, of course, Daniel Ortiz, and Councilwoman Dr. Sook Corr for helping to do the hard work and hammering out this, at least this last part of the agreement. I want to start by acknowledging the soap factory residents who spoke at Monday's event, some of whom are here today. I was there Monday night, and I heard you speak, and thankful that you did that you organized it. It's clear that we fell short in communicating with you from the very beginning, and that's on us. When I realized how badly the communication had broken down, I didn't think that we could wait another second to act. I've spent this last few days since Monday night on meetings, calls, doing everything in my power to get the support that I believe that you deserve, which meant pushing and things, obviously, up to today, right up to the wire. I know that this entire plan isn't perfect. I know that this last piece that Dr. Corr and I worked on is not perfect, and it's not. I know that it's not what you had hoped for. But I can promise you this, that I left no stone unturned. I poured my heart and energy into getting what was possible under the circumstances, and I've led with my conscience, and I'll keep doing that. That doesn't end today, by the way. I would have liked to secure more resources for you, but we did put that work in. So I actually just have one question. council is going to speak to its commitments, but I asked Weston Urban about the newest addition to the rental relocation. I don't mind. I wonder if you might come up, Randy. I just want to be clear. Ms. Garza, one of the speakers today, mentioned that we need to stand by our commitments, and so I want to be real clear, just kind of a yes or no. Weston Urban is contributing $250,000 as outlined in today's presentations, unrestricted. Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Unrestricted, and that is also in addition to the other things included in the relocation plan.
Okay.
It's not in lieu of our previous commitments.
That's on top of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate, of course, Councilwoman Dr. Cord, your efforts to help the residents. We were in feverish communication with some of you, and we're just as eager to find a solution. I look forward to continuing work with you on the future phases. And I'm talking to the residents now as we look forward. And as you mentioned, the communication, well, you didn't mention it. You spoke very loud and clear. Monday night, you spoke very loud and clear last night, and then today. So I hope to continue working with you on the future. Father Drennan said today that the public should have the first seats at the table. I couldn't agree more and commit to ensuring that happens as we go forward. So keep speaking up, and together we're going to hopefully make sure that your needs are met and working on the policy changes to prevent this kind of displacement from happening in the future. This is not something that it may be novel to us now. It's not going to continue to be novel as our city continues to grow. And so I think that we as a council need to talk about policy changes to ensure that as we move forward, this doesn't happen. To my colleagues on the dais, I hope to work with you more closely on policy that we prevent this kind of thing from happening. And again, to Soap Factory residents, I look forward to working with you more in the future. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Cabello-Havrda. Councilmember Pelaez.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot of noise where I am, so please forgive me. I'm supportive of the project. I'll remind everybody that the San Antonio Express News editorial board got it right when they said that there's a lot to like about this ballpark. And there's some things that back then there were elements not to like. I think that we have checked off a very, very, very important question that was asked of us at that time, which is, what are you going to do for the people who will be displaced? And I want to thank and call attention to Cops Metro. Cops Metro let nobody say that they still do not influence policy. If today is evidence of anything, it's that Cops Metro continues to be a force to be reckoned with. When you showed up, Cops Metro, and said, what would be fair is $2,500, I hope that you realize today that we listened to you. And you're right. Your requests and your suggestions were very, very reasonable. And $2,500 going to the tenants is the right thing to do, and it's compassionate, it's equitable, and I think it'll go a long way in making them whole and helping them transition into not just other housing, but I am certain better housing. I got to tour the soap factory. I got to tell you, folks, it looks like it's being kept together with duct tape baling wire and string. And there are better places that are more dignified for the people who are living there. And I look forward to seeing you all, enjoy some newer apartments and some new conditions for your families and your neighbors. Along this discussion, I think it's also important for us to remind our ownership group, and Randy Smith, if I can get you up on the podium, I have a question about the use of local firms for construction. Can you tell me about y'all's commitment to do that? What you have planned for local construction firms, local project management firms, local engineers, local architects, local suppliers? I'll tell you, there's no reason for you guys to not be using only local for even up to and including your prime your prime construction company. I mean, there's plenty of talent in San Antonio. So tell me how you're going to use that.
Yes, sir, Councilman. Thank you for the question. And I would start with saying nobody has been engaged yet. we are nowhere near engaging construction firms in the process. So, but looking forward, I think it is a real challenge for all of us as a community in the following way. You heard in an earlier agenda item today much talk about the airport. And so if you look at our local construction general contractor and subcontractor talent pool, it's really a regional talent pool. These are companies that work all within San Antonio and our region. And between a couple of $1 billion at the airport, between the $1 billion of development that we've pledged to put on the ground, between all of the massive infrastructure projects that this council has chosen to invest in, and then that's not to mention those same contractors, our local contractors, get pulled north. The construction activity in Austin, Texas is off the charts. And so I really think it is a generational opportunity for small to medium-sized businesses in San Antonio to grow. This will be a 10-year period of unprecedented investment in infrastructure, public infrastructure and private investment. And so we have committed that any prime contractor that is not local will be encouraged to partner with a local contractor. But again, too early, we have engaged no one, and our emphasis as a company is always to work with our neighbors.
So Randy, I appreciate that, and I hear what you're saying. Right, it's too early to name contractors and all that. You were waiting for today's vote, but what I'll tell you is, what we are telling the public is that this is going to be the people's project, right? That we're building a facility for San Antonians to be able to come downtown, enjoy their downtown, and enjoy a team that has been here forever. I think, well, first of all, it would break my heart if a non-San Antonio firm were to build the People's Baseball Stadium. But it would break my heart also if later we find out that we didn't try hard enough. And then there's the other part of this, right? And that is, I want to push back on you and tell you that, I know you say you'll certainly encourage local teams to partner. I would challenge you to maybe change that to, we won't pick teams unless they're partnered with a local. I need y'all's help in making sure that our regional construction companies eventually get to work on projects as primes so that they can become national construction companies. And we'll never get there unless we don't give them the chance. And I know you're picking up on what I'm laying down, but I'm really going to hold you guys accountable to that, because if our local GCs and our local engineers and our local architects have to sit back and watch somebody else build their stadium, I think we will have been I think we'll, forgive the pun, I think we'll strike out. So anyway, congratulations, y'all. I am confident that today's item is going to pass. Appreciate the hard work on this, Ben and Lori and Eric. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilmember Pelaez. Councilmember McKee Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I've told you all I really wanted to vote yes on this item, and I've gone to great lengths to get to a yes vote. And while today is just one of many anticipated baseball stadium-related votes, it is a vote that I had hoped would set the tone for the rest of our discussions, and unfortunately, I believe it's done exactly that. Over the past several days, I've heard from tenants and hope to serve as a connector between tenants and Weston Urban so that meaningful discussion and dialogue could take place. Last week, when tenants invited us to attend their meeting that was going to take place this Monday, I reached out to see if it was okay for me to invite Weston Urban. Both parties accepted the offer. We then set up a meeting on Sunday between the tenants and Weston Urban, and tenants finally got to hear for the first time some details of an in-progress displacement plan ahead of Monday's meeting. And all of that was only done with the hope and belief that we'd come to a point where tenants would be brought officially to the table and that they could have meaningful input on what will be their inevitable displacement. And those efforts and the progress being made were hijacked and co-opted somewhere along the way. What I've heard throughout this process are tenants who have been hurt and blindsided by the news that their homes will be demolished and that there was no plan in place to ensure that their livelihoods would not be disrupted. Some of these residents have lived at the soap factory for over 20 years. Others who moved in just days ago are finding this news out just days after signing their lease. and we're still signing leases to this day for phase one. Only after tenants announced their own meeting was anyone interested in bringing tenants into the fold. And even then, there was more interest in speeding and self-negotiating a half-assed deal than listening to residents' actual needs and allowing them to process whatever package you were throwing at them verbally with nothing in writing. Nothing for them to read, nothing for them to share and discuss with their families, and it's a case, again, of thinking that you know better than the people that you serve. And had we just done what I asked in our executive sessions and at every public session since, and the owners just scheduled their own engagement and tried to meaningfully engage the tenants, maybe we would be in a better place today. To be clear, I also think it's trash to use ARPA dollars to try to fix a problem that we're manufacturing. ARPA was designed to address the needs and disparities further exacerbated by the pandemic. There is a great housing need right now. There is a wait list for housing. There are people being displaced. There are people experiencing homelessness right now. We could deploy these funds to address problems that are already existing, but instead we're going to subsidize the displacement of these tenants and use ARPA to try to appease them. Again, we are subsidizing their displacement. That assistance itself should come wholly from Weston Urban. The whole premise of the financial success of this deal and the promise that it made was that public dollars, quote unquote, weren't being used. ARPA was not created out of thin air. ARPA funds are public dollars distributed to us because of a great existing need. Many of these tenants also will need to purchase a car to travel to work. They will need to pay for child care and take time off work to move. They will need to cover a first month's rent at a new place. They will lose access to their schools, their work, their medical appointments, all of it. $2,500 is an arbitrary number. The tenants are, and this is the most disappointing part of it all, is that the tenants are an afterthought to the baseball deal, and that is incredibly disappointing and incredibly disgusting. What I would ask is that we consider the tenants' request for more time to be involved meaningfully in the discussion. I hear you all when you say that this is a much better plan than others elsewhere and that in a matter of days we found some opportunity. But imagine what we could accomplish in lockstep with tenants. Most of the tenants understand that the demolition happens with or without the stadium, and they could have organized for a no vote today and filled the room with people opposed to the stadium. All they're asking for is a few more days to make a horrible situation less so. And it's also so interesting to me, if Weston Urban could find $250,000 in less than 24 hours to match this stipend fund, I'd bet they could accomplish a little bit more in a week. But some of my colleagues are under the impression that if we don't vote on this today, then baseball is dead. So I would like to invite Weston Urban or the representative to come up real quick for a yes or no question. That's all I'm going to ask. I value honesty, and so I want you to be honest and clear right now. If we were to cast this vote within a week and a half, let's say September 22nd, would you not take that to MLB before the mid-October deadline? Yes or no?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Daniel Ortiz, co-counsel, along with Blakely Fernandez for designated bidder. We could not take that to MLB. It would not be sufficient. There are other parties that need to also act before the deadline, and so not acting with sufficient time to allow them to act would be incomplete to MLB.
On this,
They will need to schedule. They'll schedule based on today's action or, frankly, inaction. So this isn't the only piece of the puzzle. It's an MOU between the city and the county and the team. So we could not take. There would not be enough time. It just would be the domino effect of not acting today would be significant.
There's something that tangible that prevents every other party, including the county. There is something that prevents them from making movement without us.
So in theory, no, Councilman, and I am.
Could still take the deal. They
but
could
in
still
practice,
act without us.
26 days would be what would be left for the other parties to act after the 22nd to meet an October 15th deadline.
Thank you. Colleagues, I know y'all personally to be kind, compassionate people who value the input of our constituents. And I know that you're willing to go the extra mile to find a compromise. And I know that you all want to vote yes on baseball and you want to see this happen. I'm with you. But how we get there matters. Earlier, we heard an invocation from Pastor Jimenez, and he shared the significance of looking out for the least of us. And I hope that today you can show people who you are and demonstrate your values to those who need to see it the most right now. So that being said, I move to continue this item until a special session to take place before September 23rd, with the expectation that Weston Urban and the city hold a public meeting next week where tenants can discuss the plan, provide feedback, and additional options can be explored, including opportunities to move into the new apartment at grandfathered rent, reducing their existing rent, alternatives to ARPA, additional funding for relocation assistance, and exploration of additional nonprofit support.
Okay, there was a motion to continue the item with a second. So we will take up discussion on continuance now. And the continuance date was? Before September 23rd. Andy, what's that date?
We need a date certain. We can just say September 20, but the delay. I'm looking for when we have a meeting, Mayor, in September.
Session before September 23rd.
So the motion is to delay until there's a special session on or before September 23rd. We can do that, Councilman.
Okay, thank you. And that was seconded by Councilmember Castillo. So the discussion on the floor now is a discussion on the delay. Annie, should we just take up one discussion on the whole thing? Because I'm assuming people are going to talk about the merits.
If the councilman's okay with it, I would recommend that we continue the discussion, since the discussion on the delay is so much tied to the merits of the.
So we'll continue on with our discussion in our queue. We'll make sure that we have we'll take up the motion for delay before the main motion. So we'll continue now. You yielded the floor, Councilman. Councilmember White.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to say at the outset, I love baseball. It's a great game. It's a family sport. Some of my best childhood memories are going to Astros games with my dad and my brother. And I'll also never forget sitting next to my mom when the final out was made and the Astros won their first World Series. I get warm, fuzzy feelings when I think about the sport, and I played for at least a third of my life, and I love everything about it. But all of that is completely irrelevant to me with regard to the discussion that we're having today. Because today we must look at this project on its own merits and decide whether or not this is a project that is good for the city of San Antonio. And to me, we have to look at three things. Number one, who are we working with? Who is the city's partner in this project? And I'm here to tell you, and I've used the expression before, and it is a basketball expression, but this is a dream team of an ownership group. These are people, and David, I was happy to hear you say it earlier. These are people that keep their word. These are people with big hearts. These are people that care about the future of the city and its people. And so when we look at who our partners are in this venture, because this is a city-private partnership, I am very satisfied that we are working with the best and the brightest and the most compassionate of people that have this city's interest at the top of their minds. Number two, why are we doing this and what impact is it going to have? Well, we're doing this on a very basic level because the stadium the Mission's playing right now does not meet Major League Baseball standards. And Major League Baseball has said the Missions must have a new stadium, otherwise we risk losing the team. Number two, putting this downtown. Minor League Baseball is something that is affordable family entertainment, something that this city very, very desperately needs. We hear all the time about how much so many people can't afford to go to the Spurs games. Well, they can afford to go to the missions games. And that's something that we want to continue to have here in the city. Number 3, people mentioned it earlier, labor, right? We heard from those college students and about how we have folks in high school and in college that are deciding whether they're going to stay here in San Antonio or whether they're going to move to other cities. We also hear from our business community all the time about how we need more talent here. We have to keep our talent at home here in San Antonio. Something like this, downtown, where we get development around it with bars and restaurants and other attractions around the stadium that can attract our young people to stay here in San Antonio and can attract talent from around the country to come to San Antonio is valuable. It'll be valuable for our businesses as we move forward as a city. And then finally, the economic impact that this can have, right? When this works, and I do believe it's going to work, the revenue that will be generated by everything that's in and around the stadium for this city is going to allow us to pay for a bunch of other things in the city that we always talk about here that we want to do. The economic impact has a chance to be very, very significant for the city of San Antonio if this is done properly. And again, I believe we've got the team here to make sure that this is done right. So who are we working with? Why are we doing and what does it impact? And third, can we do this in a fiscally responsible manner? And I'm here to tell you that but for this financial plan that we have before us, I wouldn't be in favor of this project. But this plan is one that, frankly, would not work for every stadium. Okay, it works for this minor league park. And it's a plan where no general fund money is going to be used on it. It's a plan where we are not going to have to tax the greater San Antonio area. It's a plan where the ownership group is bearing a significant portion of the cost, and the rest will be paid for by the TERS, as is mentioned, meaning that the businesses and everything around the stadium that are going to get the benefits of being there, it'll be their tax dollars that go to pay the rest. And all of that, I should say, is also backed by numerous guarantees from this ownership group. It is a responsible financial plan that will not impact the overwhelming majority of San Antonians. It's for those reasons that I'm for this project. But I would be remiss if I gave up the rest of my time without saying the following. No project is perfect, as was stated earlier. We're never going to be in a situation where we do something big and bold for our city where there aren't some folks that are unhappy. And I want all of you to know that I hear you, and I know that these people up here hear you. And it may feel like you're not being listened to, but I can promise you that that is not the case. This group of folks has listened. These people I know have listened as well. And the number one role for us here on City Council is always to listen and to protect the people of San Antonio. I take that responsibility extremely seriously, and I know that my colleagues do as well. But what I will not have, and what I believe is detrimental to the future of this city, is when we vilify business people because of the resources that they have. Everybody should be aware that the same people that are putting forth this project today are the same people that we go to every week of the year for various philanthropic ventures, and they're always there for us. These are the same people that employ hundreds, if not thousands, of San Antonio residents so that those folks can provide for their families. And these are the people that have brought forth a project where they are risking significant amounts of their capital to invest in this city. And I'm here to tell you something, all right? If we don't have folks like this that are willing to risk their capital and invest in the city, we will never get this city to where we want it to be. And there are others that are watching. There are others that are watching.
All right, folks. Councilman White has the floor, and if you can't show respect for the speaker, whether he or she is at the podium or up on the dais, you will be escorted out.
We need these folks to continue to invest in San Antonio and its people. In the future, we're going to need other groups of people to invest in San Antonio and its citizens. That's how we are going to continue to move our great city forward so that we can reach the potential that San Antonio does have. This is a great city, and it's made up of great people like all of you and like this group as well. And this city council will take this vote today, and after we leave the dais, we will all remain one group of people in this great city, all working together for one common goal, which is to make San Antonio the best place to live for all of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Rocha Garcia.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I wanted to start off by thanking everyone who came to express their support or the opposition for the project. And I have a lot of questions still. And I'll just start off by acknowledging and appreciating Father Drennan said, reminding us that the seemingly insignificant should be looked at as equals. And Councilman White just said something that reminded me that next week we're going to have a vote about housing. That's going to be critical, and I'd hope that you all would also look at that as well as your neighbors. Councilman White just said we will not vilify the people for the resources that they have, and so just something to consider as we think this through. I do have some questions, and this is thank you, Councilman Mickey Rodriguez. I've got to start off by acknowledging that I appreciate you bringing the residents together, specifically the tenants together at the meeting. So that they can have a chance to voice their opinion. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that you did what you should do. And so I appreciate that, and thank you for allowing me to come into that meeting on Sunday night. I do have some questions, and it's particularly in regard to what needs to happen at the county level before that moves on, and then also what needs to happen at SAISD and by when. And I'm asking because SAISD only has one board meeting, and that's on Monday, September the 16th. The next meeting is not until October the 21st. I understand that the superintendent has been allowed to negotiate the deal, just like Eric Walsh is allowed to negotiate the deals, but it's still the selling of the land still actually has to come back to the SAISD board. And so I'm wondering if there's anyone from SAISD that might be able to respond that. Or maybe it's Daniel. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Again, here as co-counsel for designated bidders, so I am not, to be crystal clear, speaking for SAISD. What I can tell you is that we are in active discussions with SAISD. We have been in active discussions with SAISD. In fact, the MOU acknowledges that we are in active discussions with SAISD. Approving the MOU, bottom line, what I could say is approving the MOU makes it incumbent on the team to finish those discussions with SAISD. So the city wouldn't be taking on any additional responsibility whatsoever. So to your point, bottom line, there is a question there, but it's incumbent on the team to finish those discussions with SAISD.
Got it. And same for the county, Daniel?
Again, we're not speaking for the county, but we have also been in active conversations with the county. We are scheduled, depending on action or inaction today, to get a binding MOU with the county as well.
Got it. Thank you so much. And I'm asking this because I would assume that this would generate a reduction in property tax revenue if the TERS is extended to the school district. And so that's why, no, it wouldn't. So help me understand that then. Oh, sorry, Ben.
Councilwoman, school districts do not participate in tax increment reinvestment zones.
Okay.
So there'd be no impact on SAISD.
Okay, thank you. I was not clear on that. And then I do have an additional question on the timeline. So if we have the ability to leverage, I'll ask, so additional, or well, actually, let me ask this. The Building Brighter Communities folks, have they been able to talk to every resident yet? But are they now allowed to knock on everyone's door?
I'd like to take those
Yeah,
one at a time.
sure.
So, no, ma'am.
Okay.
They have not yet visited with every resident. As we've talked about, there's well over 300 folks, and the Building Brighter Communities meetings are intended to be one-on-ones. So, to facilitate that process, they're currently meeting or having office hours 5 times a week, Monday morning and Monday evening, Wednesday morning and Wednesday evening, and Saturday mornings from 10 to noon. And so those office hours are intended to be introductory and to set the one-on-ones. And so, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but it is to meet one-on-one with everyone is going to take time.
Got it. And so what's the earliest that you would anticipate they'd meet with everyone, or what percentage of the tenants have they gotten to work with already?
I think, Brandon, are you here? Yes. So Brandon Johnson is the CEO of Building Brighter Communities. As far as one-on-one meetings, the percentage Brandon can speak to, and again, if you were going to ask me for a date to achieve all those, I think it's highly dependent on, we don't want to force these meetings. It's scheduling dependent, and it's a one-on-one thing. Thank you. Brandon?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Councilwoman, so far we have signed up, and 17 tenants have signed up to meet with us for our one-on-ones. We've already had our first one-on-one, and we have a team member meeting with a disabled person, and that will be our first person we physically take to a new place to look at. And total, we have met with 40 residents, but again, 17 have agreed to sign up and seek our assistance in relocating.
Thank you. Thank you, Brendan. And then is there a representative from Opportunity Home? I am wondering if you can help me understand, and it's my understanding, thanks to Councilwoman Castillo, a few weeks ago, she mentioned there's 113,000 people on a list to be able to get help from Opportunity Home. I understand that there is no wait list on the mixed income portfolio that you all have, but I also understand that it's a little bit far, like the areas that you all are proposing. There's 18 apartments available in my district, that's 8.2 miles away. There's 14 available in D1, that's 5.2 miles away from where they live right now. There's 11 in D10 at Bella Claire, 7.1 miles away. There's 143 units available 10 miles away at the Woodhill Apartments, and 39 at Villa de Valencia in D10, which is 15 miles away. And so I guess my question would be, I feel like, are we inadvertently maybe jumping these folks to the front of the line? And why weren't these mixed, or why wasn't this mixed income portfolio maybe offered to some of the residents who didn't receive help from Opportunity Home? So just help me understand the logic.
So Opportunity Home, first and foremost, has served as an option for the residents of Soap Factory. Hello, Council. Hello, Mayor. It is these units, and what we did as a point in time, we have 382 units, as you've read through a letter, 382 units that are available. These are across the city of San Antonio, and they are meant for that. It's a choice among the residents. In often cases, they say, well, we would like to move to X. Well, here's an opportunity for that to accomplish. So in terms of distance, that may be exactly where they want to be, so they could be in close proximity, regardless of the mileage. For the residents of downtown, we have 110 that are in districts 1, 2, 4, and 5 that would be within close proximity, that are all by via transit. They're by clinics. They're by the same sort of living needs that Soap Factory currently offers to them. So that's how we classified it. Now, in terms of the wait list, these are in our mixed income, so they're not part of our public housing portfolios. Opportunity Home does operate in two portfolios,
Sure.
Beacon and public housing. So it doesn't affect the wait list. These are options that are available today to any resident, and we would often, because it can change, 382 was yesterday's number.
Yeah.
It could be higher, it could be lower today, depending upon what other residents are looking at our systems.
And I guess the reason that I'm asking is because I feel like we get very creative when we need to. And so, and I mentioned this last go around, right? I said, man, I wish somebody would have come up with this idea to help save the hospital on the south side, right? And so when we don't have enough vouchers to be able to place people in some homes, but you have a portfolio that has so many apartments available, it's just difficult to understand why we wouldn't be able to bridge that gap, right, from one portfolio to another, right? And so, and I know it's very complicated, but it just seemed like this came together very, very quickly. And so I'm just really trying to understand.
The flexibility of the available units is always there, and it is incumbent upon our organization, as we have done so over many years. These are available. We do run into situations where those on our wait list choose not to live in the available units because maybe it's not near where they need it to be for the sake of their families, for the sake of their parents, whichever the situation maybe arise. But we would love to have everything rented out ahead of time for the sake of the organization. But in doing so, when we saw this, it presented an option that we can provide that will allow them. Here's some available units, and we'd love to partner with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rocha Garcia. Councilmember Courage.
Thank you, Mayor. I just thought of two words when I was thinking about what to say, and that is not fair. This is not fair to the people who are living there. There are 300 people or more whose lives are going to be really disrupted. And I believe all of us up here have been thinking about that, and I think even the developers are recognizing that too. As I thought of that, I thought to myself, how many times have I had to move in the 53 years I've lived in San Antonio? And I went back, I've moved 11 times in the 53 years I've lived here in San Antonio. 11 moves. And they were always hard. They were never easy. They were never fun. Sometimes I was forced to move, not that I wanted to, but the rent went up more than I could pay. I was, in a location that was too far away from where I worked, and I felt like I needed to move somewhere else. So, it isn't fair, but life isn't always fair either, and we know that. And so what we here need to do is try as much as we can to make it something that will not be so detrimental to your lives that, you can't move on. We all face those kinds of challenges sometimes. Now, yes, the developers of these projects, they're going to make great profits someday. It could be in 5 years, it could be in 10 years. They're going to be building market rate housing right by a beautiful area that's been redeveloped, so they're going to get good money for that property once it's all built. And yes, they're going to build hotel, and hotels make a lot of money. Yes, they're going to go ahead and offer commercial space, and commercial space makes a lot of money. So, yeah, they're going to make a lot of money, no doubt about that. But also, we have to take a look at not just the 300 who are most affected, but we need to consider what is the benefit to all the rest of the community. Those are the kinds of decisions we need to make as a city council. And right now, those are some of the hardest decisions I think I've been asked to make on this council. Also, though, we need to think of, this stadium that's going to be built. It's going to be built. That means there's going to be hundreds of jobs that pay probably very good salaries in construction. There's going to be maybe hundreds of people over a few years that are going to be working there and making a living for themselves. There's going to be, thousands and thousands of fans who are going to be going there, enjoying that over their lifetime. But yes, at your expense, it's true. But we need to think of the big picture as members of the council. I've always said, when I was elected to council, and I say it now, a council person for one district is more than just a council person for that district. They're a council member for the entire city, because every decision we make here at City Hall, one way or another, affects the lives of everybody. It doesn't have a good effect on many people today, and there's probably a lot of decisions we've made since I've been on this council that we know people have not wanted that kind of a decision. But also, they're going to be building housing. I know it's not going to be housing that maybe many people in this room may not want to pay. But we need more housing of all kinds. And I support affordable housing. I've supported it in my own district. I support it in other districts. And it may not be where you want to be or where you are today, but we need to continue building all kinds of housing, particularly workforce housing. They're going to be building 1,500 units. Then there's going to be commercial property. There's going to be a hotel. There's going to be a restaurant. But you know what that means also? That means hundreds and hundreds of jobs for people in this community, people who you may work with in other areas. So, yeah, it's not fair to you, but we have to look at the fairness to the entire community. So, as hard as this is, and I don't expect you to think we're making the right decision, because it's not the right decision for you. But I'm sorry, I need to consider what is the right decision as much as possible for the entire community. But at the same time, we need to do as much as we can, whether it's the development team or the city team, to make this change in your lives as easy as possible. I don't know how else to put it. I do have a question for the city manager. What's the date that ARPA funds must be expended?
So, Councilman, as we've been talking about in our budget work sessions, funds have to be encumbered by the end of, ARPA funds have to be encumbered by the end of this year and spent by the fall of 2026. I will add, as we've talked about ARPA, I'm going to go back a little bit. We had $5.8 million that was available based on our review of contracts that we had. Of that $5.8 million, $2.1 million of ARPA was being released by agencies because they couldn't meet the timeline. The other $3.7 million is from the interest on the ARPA. Of the $5.8 million, the proposed budget includes $3.1 million for the extension of the senior centers. We've talked about that. And the balance, $2.7 needs to be allocated. So we have talked about this being ARPA dollars, and more specifically, it's from the interest on ARPA, which will allow us to continue to do this within the timelines allocated.
Now, you said it has to be spent by the end of our fiscal year or the end of a calendar year?
It needs to be encumbered, and that's a term that the federal government uses in terms of it has to be allocated for use, but spent by the fall of 2026.
How come it's not by December 31st of 2026 or something, or 2025?
It is December of 2026,
Okay.
yeah. But
Because I noticed we said that people who are going to receive our money could only receive it until September of that year. Why? It could be October and November, right? As long as it's spent by then?
Well, I think the idea, the concept is that Phase 1, which is the 189 tenants approximately that be impacted, Phase 1, according to Western Urban, would begin next September.
Right.
So it's aligned with that.
But aren't we saying that if there's money available, we can use it for people in Phase 2 also?
If Phase 2 or Phase 3 residents choose to, if there's money available after Phase 1, if Phase 2 or Phase 3 residents choose to also move off property, then it's available for them as well, but by that September 2025 deadline or timeline.
Okay. I'd like the council to consider actually adding another 100,000 to that, since we haven't allocated all of that 2.7, so that we have the ability to help more people who may have extraordinary kinds of problems in their move. For example, there's one woman who's lived there for 30 years. Trying to move somebody who's lived somewhere for 30 years compared to somebody who's lived there for 6 months, there's a big difference. And I don't know if we kind of took that into consideration when we did our calculations. So, but the point I think we're talking about is to extend the decision, and I would say at this time, no. I think we need to move on this now, because I've seen the letter from Major League Baseball. They need to have a solid commitment from all of the participants by the middle of October, and it doesn't leave them enough time to get all of the commitments they need if we delay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Courage, Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank all the individuals who provided public comment, and as well as to the Soapwork Factory tenants who invited us to their home on Monday to share their experience and expectations of your city council. Through that process, I was able to connect with a former coworker who I worked with in the hospitality industry who still works at that same spot and has lived at Soapworks for over 20 years. And they walk 2 blocks every weekday to get to and from work. To go work and keep the hospitality industry in the city of San Antonio going. We just had our Centro briefing where we talked about the role of our hospitality workers. And what we have here is a plan that essentially isn't providing the full support that they're requesting and demanding. I would be supportive of a delay given that the tenants have not necessarily had an opportunity to have that one-on-one contact. Thank you all for having those open office hours. I know they will be impactful, but my expectation would be that there would be one contact made before we get to this conversation and this point. I also want to acknowledge and thank Daniel and Anissa for being present at one of our neighborhood association meetings. I was also present at that meeting with the Gardendale community, and I heard the diverse positions on the stadium, and I just want to ensure that with the public safety plan that's being proposed, whether it's Western Urban or city staff, can I get assurances that the Gardendale neighborhood will be included in those public safety planning sessions?
Councilwoman, I think that as we look at the ballpark, traffic impacts, security impacts, I think we're going to look at the area around the ballpark to make sure that we address impacts however far out that goes.
I would like for the Gardendale neighborhood to be included, given my comments at the last conversations regarding the stadium, is just the ways in which they bear so much. And right, the expectation is that this is going to expand and impact the budding community. And I want to ensure that they have an opportunity to give their position regarding the public safety plan.
Yes, ma'am, we will take that into consideration as we develop that plan.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, I'll also add, we probably need to also include the 5 Points neighborhood just north of there as well. Actually, any neighborhood right outside that boundary needs to be part of that conversation.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I hear the concerns and I hear why they have the desire. And I think JR hit it right on the head, saying we've been promised things before and they do not materialize. And in preparation for this conversation, my team and I have been digging through a wealth of research and data regarding baseball stadiums all throughout the United States. These are academic research case studies, so on and so forth, some titled Hardball in City Hall by Roger Abrams, The Impact of Professional Sports Franchises and Venues on Local Economies by John Burry, Should Cities Pay for Sports Facilities, Adam Zarsky, Professional Sports Facilities, Franchises, and Urban Economic Development by Dennis Coates. And there's also a wealth of media articles that show that oftentimes community members are supportive of this, that abut it, because of the promises are made. However, these case studies demonstrate that those impacts and those desires do not materialize. And I do not want District 5 residents to continue to get the short end of the stick, because what we're already seeing is the carving out of parcels within the West Side TERS, which is divestment. And I need assurances from city staff in Weston Urban that you all will include our community members in that process. And thank you, Ben and Eric, for mentioning that they will be. But ultimately, when we look at the impact of sports stadiums, and I admire the shirts that my community members have, Mission West Side Prosperity, and ask us to think about the role and the impact that Wolf Stadium had on the West Side community. Did we see prosperity? When we think about the AT&T Center Frost Center, did we see the prosperity? The Alamo Dome, did we see the prosperity? And I ask us to ask ourselves, what makes this project different, that our expectations should be different and should challenge the years of academic research that show that this does not benefit the nearby community members. However, it will benefit the parcels in which Weston Urban owns, and I want to thank you all for acknowledging that the West Side impact will be the impact abutting the West Side, but not necessarily the desire that my community members have, which is it goes beyond 35. But ultimately, again, my position has and will always be public money for public good, and to continue to provide the needs that my constituents ask for, from lights, streets, public safety, and so on. And when we look at the financing structure here with the TERS, it siphons off dollars that could be going into the general fund that can service those things that my constituents call our office day to day and ask that we invest in, that we're at our budget town halls asking that we invest in. I'm currently reading this book that I checked out from the San Antonio Public Library called Visible Doctrine, The Secret History of Neoliberalism. Chapter 13 is titled Lying Through Their Teeth. And it states, given the broad unpopularity of their proposals, neoliberals need to choose their targets carefully. Some public services which are obscure or poorly understood by voters can be privatized and easily with little controversy, i.e. the finance structure that we have in front of us here today. Some folks in their public comment have shared that the conversations and the gaslighting that we're seeing, the argument that this is helping us meet our SHIP goals, I challenge that, because if we look at the SHIP, it states that the SHIP also sets a goal to protect neighborhoods from direct and indirect impacts of development by seizing financial support of market rate development. And that's what we have here. And I want to challenge and I acknowledge that the housing development is not going to be where the stadium is, but we are facilitating that as a city council. So to pass the buck and say that's a private development is lying to San Antonio residents, because without the facilitation of what we're voting on and discussing today, that does not happen, it doesn't occur. Further, the Houston and Westside TERS project plan states none of the projects identified in these project plans will require the relocation or displacement of persons. That's the Houston Street TERS policy, and that Houston Street TERS is going to be used to finance this project. Further, the Costa Tax Increment financing policy also states a TERS or a TIF-funded project shall not cause direct residential displacement. Direct residential displacement, as defined by the city, includes any occupied habitable households located on the projected project site that will require permanent displacement. And this goes against every policy that we have in place. And again, I ask, what makes baseball the exception to our housing policy framework? I would also add, I'm grateful that I saw, I heard from, rather in public comment from a District 5 property owner who owns a huge nuisance property in our district. And I challenge you to get off of neutral and put the gas and do something with your property rather than allowing it to deteriorate and cause issues in my district. So let's move forward with that, because you're part of the blight that folks are citing. I want to also emphasize this article titled "Low Occupancy, Lagging Rate Growth in Apartments Likely to Persist Through 2025." And this was published in the San Antonio Business Journal. And what they found is that we're likely going to deliver, and this is from the article, we're likely going to deliver way more apartment units than we're going to be able to absorb this year. And what they found is that there's no shortage of market rate. What we have a shortage of is workforce housing, which is the housing that's going to be replaced with market rate. So I think it's disingenuous, and there's so much need, and we hear it at our community meetings, our neighborhood association meetings, monthly from every association. And what they're asking for is public safety, lighting, investment in animal care service, tackling drainage, so on and so forth, affordable housing. They're not asking for baseball. And when we look at the amount of money that we're using of city resources, we can tackle so much within those priorities that our residents are asking us to take care of. So similar to my colleague, I challenge us to act with urgency and creativity in the same way that you all jumped on it to support a billionaire's baseball plan. It's possible. I think we have an opportunity to right a lot of wrongs if we have the same energy that we do for this plan that's before us today. But ultimately, hearing the tenants not having enough time to fully understand, and hearing that there wasn't a full sit-down meeting with Western Urban, my expectation is that happens. And no matter what the decision, whether there's a delay or not, I would be hopeful that y'all can sit in the B room and walk through some of those pieces about what the transition may or may not be. But ultimately, I will be supportive of a delay because it's what the tenants at Soapworks are requesting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember
Mayor,
Castillo.
Mayor,
Councilmember
Mayor,
Ford.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Eric.
I wanted to respond to the councilwoman, her question at the very beginning of her time about why it's different. And I wasn't the city manager here when the Alamo Dome was built, nor the Wolf Stadium, and I don't work for the county, so I don't know what the commitments were. I can tell you what's different about this, and I don't want to bring the broom down, but if Western Urban doesn't begin development, there will be no baseball stadium. We were not issuing any debt, and that's a key portion of this agreement. So that's what makes it different. I know enough about those other facilities, and we know enough about similar facilities built in other parts of the country that's a unique attribute of this MOU. So simply put, I think if Western Urban doesn't do what they're committed to doing, then we will not be bringing forward an item for your consideration to issue debt for that baseball stadium. And I'm almost positive that wasn't part of any sort of prior agreement or discussion either here or Commissioner's Court as related to sports facilities. So that's one of the key differences, and I just wanted to be able to respond to that.
Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. I first want to start off by saying thank you to all of those that came out today. I heard some really great stories. Parker, JJ, Allison, Mr. Pena from District 1. Thank you all so much for coming out. I know a lot of you all of you all took so much time out of your day, and that means time off work to be here, and so I appreciate that. I'm going to direct the majority of my comments to the tenants of Soap Factory who are District 1 residents, who I have appreciated working with for the last few weeks and hearing your stories. Like I acknowledged before, I understand that we didn't, and I will own my part in not communicating or supporting the developer to communicate with you all earlier. Sarah, you mentioned on Sunday, how would you feel if you found out a year from now you were going to have to move out? And I agree, that is a very tough reality, and tough reality that a lot of our residents are facing on a daily basis, and they don't have a year to plan. But hearing Brooklyn, your comments over what really hit me last week was you said there's a fear of becoming homeless. And that's what I really wanted to understand is why was that. And so what I learned is one of the biggest unique parts of this property is there's super small efficiency units that allows for the rates to be super affordable. And so for that reason, for hearing all of that, I really wanted to understand what it was that you all wanted in this relocation displacement plan to help make the adjustment. And there was three things that I heard. First is, where are we going to go? The second is, how are we going to afford to get there? And the third is this going to work? So the where are we going to go, we asked specifically for the other units in and around. I understand that for a lot of folks, the Continental, and there was some confusion with the hotel and the new apartment complex, may not be accessible. But I do think the partnership with the Opportunity Home Beacon apartment complexes that are just a few blocks south of downtown will be an opportunity. And I do think that the work that Building Brighter Communities, which I'll have you guys come up just so I can hear a little bit more about your work, will help folks address where they want to go on a one-on-one basis. The second thing I heard clearly was we need support getting there, and housing relocation was initially only proposed for folks that were going to move within Soap Factory. So I understand that $2,500 feels like not enough, but I'm glad we at least have something on the table for you all. There's a little bit of a misconception that I wanted to clear up, and that was that some folks who are living there less than a year wouldn't be able to access that. That's only the ARPA funds. So the funds coming, the $250K coming from the developer will be accessible to anyone. So if you moved in even September 12th, you'd still be able to access those funds to be able to transition out somewhere else. In addition, you can still stay in this for the same rate. So if I'm a Phase 1 resident and I want to stay until 2027 and I have a space in Phase 2 or Phase 3, your funds will be held for you. You'll be able to use them to move out whenever you want to transition, in case there's no efficiency unit in and around downtown available in the next few months when you're trying to go. Someone asked yesterday after public comment, if we want to leave next month, will we be able to access those funds? Absolutely. They're going to come back by the end of October and have a disbursement plan available for you all. And so we're hopeful that there, and also we mentioned, like, we don't want it to just go to moving expenses, right? Because there's other costs that are associated. So that's a stipend. You can use it however you wish that you want to use it. The third thing that I heard was, how do we know this plan's going to work? And quite frankly, like has been said, it's based on trust. And that sometimes doesn't feel good enough. So what I have requested, and Randy, if you guys can come up and just verify this, there's two things that I want to confirm about the Building Brighter Communities. Yes, please. About the work with Building Brighter Communities. One, there was some misconfusion. Are you paying Building Brighter Communities for the work that they are doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they're not doing this just out of their own philanthropy?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Second, can you all commit to collecting data in partnership with them over the next 3 months to bring it back to us so we can see where folks are going, what their satisfaction rate of the support that they're receiving is?
Absolutely. And Brandon, I don't want to speak for Building Brighter Communities, but we will commit on our end for sure.
Yeah. And I understand I got their name wrong yesterday, and I apologize. I won't do that again. But Brendan, can you tell me a little bit about y'all's experience doing this work? I was impressed when I heard y'all speak on Sunday, and so just wanted to, can you give some more context on how you all feel that you will be able to support residents and whether you feel confident in being able to help them finding a new home?
Yes, Councilwoman. We work with the city on numerous other projects dealing with housing, individuals who have been facing eviction or completely homeless. So us meeting with Brooklyn, James, and some other Soap Factory residents, we really have an understanding of what they like to do. And I just want to emphasize that for our program, Building Brighter Communities, there's no one-size-fits-all for the residents. When we meet with them, it's based on what they would like to do, what they would like to see. And again, because it's a long process, over a year, we feel very confident. And to answer your other question, I would love to write up those reports on satisfaction and what's going on with the Soap Factory. I'm an analyst by nature and by trade, so yes.
Great. Can we work together on the survey that we're asking for residents after they're finished working with y'all?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. wanted to share about the housing goals that I've mentioned, and I know David was here holding up a sign for housing, and I'm asking you all, because you all are local and you will be here for years to come, to continue to make a commitment that future housing projects will be workforce housing, will be housing for our SEISD teachers in and around, will be housing that are efficiency units, because there is a place, I think, for smaller units that are more affordable. So asking you all to make that continued commitment to help us reaching our goal in building those units with us. I want to thank Five Points Neighborhood Association and Tobin Hill Neighborhood Association for sharing their support. There was also a request for continued preservation and support of San Pedro Creek and making sure that that access in Phase 2 and Phase 3 is not lost to the creek because of the new development that is made, so that it is still accessible to the public and that there are still folks that are able to provide input on what they want that access, the community space to look like. And I know you all have made that commitment prior. I understand the request is for a delay here, but this is the first vote. They are going to come back by the end of the year before economic development contract, and we will continue to work with you all. We have our numbers now. We will continue to monitor the plan and make sure that as we move forward, the commitments that are made here today will be continued to be followed through on. And if at any point this plan and what they have said is not working, like Eric just mentioned, there will be no debt issue. This is not the funding contract. It's the initial part to the MOU. So I commit to staying in constant communication with you all, and as does my office, to make sure that you all are justly and get everything that you need to be rehomed in the way that you want to. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaur. Councilmember Alderete Gavito.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first off thank all the speakers who are here today, whether you're part of a neighborhood association, residents at the Soapworks factory, or representing an organization. Your voice is extremely valuable to this conversation, so thank you for making the time. I know this is a marathon meeting. I'll keep my comments brief. I do want to make sure that the residents recognize the weight of the decision and the impacts of approving or denying this proposal. When I was the former executive director of Tech Block, we often talked about how critical it is for cities to have thriving downtowns. We need to create places for people to live, for people to work, and for people to play, and this stadium aligns perfectly with that. Daniel, I wanted to thank you for your comments on why it's critical that we vote today, so I will not be in support of a delay because I want us to keep this plan moving forward. I did have a few questions. Ben, you referred in your comments on slide 4 or 5 about the percentage that this will be funded by Western Urban, and then the percentage it would be paid for by the Houston Street Church.
Yes, ma'am. So looking at it in total, what I referred to was if you look at the team equity contribution of $34 million, the team lease revenues of $1 million per year, the $2 ticket fee, along with the guaranteed investment or guaranteed revenues from phases 1 and 2 of the private development, both the city and county property tax and the MMD assessment on those first 2 phases, all of that combined pays for about 86% of the ballpark project. And then I caveated it with, if the phase 1 and 2 exceed our projections, or Western Urban moves forward with phases 3 and 4, the use of the Houston Street Tours diminishes or gets eliminated.
Sure.
If they build all 4 phases, there's actually a surplus in the Houston Street Tours at that point.
Okay. No, and I think that's helpful for us to understand how much of this is private investment. And I agree with my colleague, Councilman White, that we need these private investments to continue to up-level our city and to make San Antonio the city we all want to be in. And again, a city that people can live, where people can work, and where people can play. Thanks so much, Ben. I had a couple of questions, Lori, for you. Really quickly, can you tell us how many total residents and how many total units we anticipate on relocating? And then also, too, quickly, if you can let me know, normally when a property owner decides to redevelop while tenants are living there, what is the required process for notifying the tenants, and what type of assistance is provided?
I'm going to answer the last question first.
Sure.
Typically, we don't provide any assistance if they are not receiving any incentives.
Okay.
And so this happens across the city. If we're not providing any incentives, we wouldn't know. and it's handled between the landlord and the tenant.
Okay.
So we don't have guidelines on that. And remind me of your first question.
Just how many total residents and how many total units we anticipate relocating?
We have approximately 389 units. Is that correct? 380 units? How many? Three? In the entire property, there's 381. Okay, 381 units. Phase 1 includes about 190 units. And so in Phase 1, those are the households that we, with the Weston Urban and Building Brighter Communities, will be relocating.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks. And the reason I asked about the assistance is because it seems that Western Urban is going above and beyond with their offers of relocation assistance and with support with moving costs. This is not something we typically see from developers, nor is it something that's required when property owners decide to redevelop their property. So I want to thank you and your team, Randy, for your willingness to negotiate on this, to hear residents' concerns. I was also there on Monday night with you all, and to make efforts to minimize the impact of displacement. So thank you so much for your efforts. I do also want to thank COPS Metro for advocating for the residents of the Soapworks factory and for pushing for what a fair and just agreement to these folks looks like. Your COPS Metro's constant hard work to hold leaders accountable does not go unnoticed, and I'm glad that this MOU has your support. That's important to me. I do believe that this project is well thought out and will be a great addition to downtown. Thank you to everyone. It's always so loud. Thank you to everyone who's been working tirelessly for the past several months to come up with solutions. This is not easy, but it is definitely the right thing to do for San Antonio. So I'll be supporting this item. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alderete Gavito. Councilmember Villagrán.
Thank you. I want to talk about what this first step is, and this is the memo of understanding, and I will be in support of staff recommendations today. I don't think there is a need to delay. I feel like we have heard the voices. There are some sentiments that it does not sound are like going to change if we delay this on the on the sides, that's not going to change it, and it's not going to do anything to change my vote either. This has been a long discussion about housing, history, business, baseball, then it turned into apartment living versus home ownership, market rate versus affordability, and what we do with aging multifamily units, because that's what we have, and that's why people throw around the affordability when this is actually market rate. We talked about SHIP goals. We just ran the gamut, and I felt we didn't talk about this memo of understanding. And I want to go back to the fact that, yes, we had definite missteps from from the Wolf Stadium to the AT&T Center, which was the county's, to the Dome. It has taken some time, but this is a different council. This is a different age, and this is a different city manager. So I think the one important thing that I would like to see and direct the city manager in is, with this one in particular, I would like to see a task force to kind of get all these aspects that we've talked about today and really hone down on having representatives to talk about the issue at hand, because this was a memo of understanding which turned into a whole lot more. So if we could, and then as we move forward with the different phases of this, again, I would like Gardendale there. Thank you for coming and sharing your frustrations and your experience. Brooklyn Ramos with the tenants, I feel, shared some good points last evening at public comment that I was like, if her voice is at that table, we could hear something. And then, of course, COPS Metro, who has been doing this for almost as long as I've been alive, also have some insight and some history. But I think we need to get back into that this is a new day and age, and everybody has stories, tragedies, celebrations, failures, and successes, and we really do want to see this move downtown. And about 8 years ago, there was a different person on this dais, but they had come with a plan for downtown Fox Tech for a medical school. And that council said no. And District 3 got that medical school on the Brooks campus. And they made it work. And many of us were at the State of Brooks. So San Antonio, sure, we could say no to downtown again. You could do that. But what would that mean? That would mean just some other part of San Antonio would benefit from this. And I think downtown, and as some of the neighbors expressed, they're frustrated and they're tired of seeing that. And so you have a council committed. That's why you have my support to go there. But again, I love San Antonio. I can give you probably 10 other spots that designated bidders could go. But this is what they've brought before us. This is what they're saying they don't need. They have the funding, and Ben's going to work it out in terms of the memo of understanding. And the county, our counterparts over at the county, I know have dollars to use. So with those, I think we can take care of the residents and the concern. We can get creative and look at phase 2 and phase 3 and ask for a portion of affordability if we have the right people at the table. But we need to get through this step. So if today we could just get through this step and do that memo of understanding and not delay, and then have the larger conversations, because as though things were set up here that were hurtful to among the colleagues, I know we can all come back together and do what's best for the city of San Antonio. So I want to thank you all for coming out and presenting and sharing. There is a solution out there to make sure, and change is hard, and some people are going to be unhappy, and I get that. But change is what's needed in this particular area of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Villagran. Councilmember McKee-Rodriguez.
It sounds like we're not getting a delay today, but I'd still like us to cast our votes for the record, and should we not, then I'll be voting no on the original item. I do want to convey to Team Weston Urban that my future votes are going to be contingent upon stronger two-way communication that includes the most impacted residents of our community and a lot more initiative on your end. I imagine we can get there, and I would like for us to get there together. I am thinking about what our mayor said earlier about the vision for our city and the vision for downtown, and what I'm most worried about is that we are going to continue another decade of focusing our investment in making downtown a place for the white and affluent to make their money at the expense of working Black and brown people. We are going to continue to incentivize gentrification and displacement. We're going to continue to disregard the experiences of our constituency in favor of the suits and insiders, and that we're going to continue to say, I've heard your voices, but we don't care. That is no vision of mine for San Antonio, and it's not one I wish to be a part of. When the tenants first came to us to speak, I think there was this notion that they were just activists causing havoc, as if that somehow supersedes their place as community members in our city. But they are the tenants who should have been included in this process from day one. It is so easy to disregard a member of our community if they wear jeans and a teal shirt instead of a suit. So I do want to first thank the tenants for getting involved and for the sacrifice of your time and energy for what has often felt like a moot point. I also want to thank Texas Organizing Project for supporting these residents and connecting with one another and empowering them to organize their shared voices and lived experiences so that they would be heard. I hear you today, and I am heartbroken at what's happening, and I do want to commit to you that I'm not going anywhere. I will not stop hearing and working with you to ensure that you're treated with dignity and respect every step of the way.
Thank you, Councilmember McKee-Rodriguez. Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question regarding the handling of the construction of the project. I understand that there hasn't been any conversations, like this is step one and then we'll get there. But I've had a couple of small business owners share their concern. It's more on the city's end about, how we're navigating all the projects on our plate. And their concern is, I guess for the team, like what is y'all's expectation of what's going to be done differently? That way we're not disrupting access to small businesses while the project's under construction.
Are you talking about their construction?
Correct, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Councilwoman, was the question access to small businesses during construction?
Correct.
Yes. So the ballpark construction is bound by Cameron on the west, Flores on the east, Martin on the south, Kingsbury on the north. The SISD headquarters is across to the north. There are no small businesses along Cameron or the creek, and none on that stretch of Martin. There is one office that I believe is vacant on Florence, across from the ballpark. But any small business that were to be there, we will take every step we can. We have a plan to work with the city on, as we always do, with temporary right-of-way closures for heavy equipment. But that I know of, there are no small businesses abutting the ballpark.
And thank you for that. Just given, right, it's a lengthy process, and likely, like, we just had someone give public comment in support of the project who just created a business, right? And there's opportunity for folks to create businesses, and just want to ensure that there's a plan that won't disrupt access to their place of business. So thank you for sharing that you all would come up with a plan. That's my only question for you, Randy. Thank you. I did also want to emphasize one key point that the councilman hit on. I'll never forget, it was a city staffer, no longer with the city of San Antonio, and they shared that gentrification just happens. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just a phenomenon that just occurs. And there's some literature that argues that as well. But what I will share is that there's brokers in that process and facilitators in that process, right? And it's this body. And we're seeing that today, the facilitation of this system that causes harm to long-established communities, particularly those of color and lower income, where it just creates more burden for the nearby abutting property owners. So just wanted to highlight that, and also share that, I'm a bit disappointed that there was a discussion with ARPA dollars to support this project to put out a fire that this project created. I don't think it's innovative or something that should be commended. I think it's lazy leadership to not talk about something that we already knew from the start that was going to be needed. Tenants need relocation services. That's the importance of the plan. I had a conversation with Randy and his team about the relocation piece. So it's just something that we know is necessary, and doing the math with the amount of units and the amount of funding allocated, where are we going to get the additional funding to make up for those apartment complexes? I'm assuming, are all 361 units occupied, or some vacant? Some are vacant? Okay, because I'm just trying to understand, like, the total 500,000, if there's enough to provide the support as written, because it doesn't add up at the 361. And where would the city and or Weston Urban identify additional funding in the case that that's not enough funding?
Beyond what you all are discussing today?
Correct.
I think that's a conversation that I'll ask Randy to weigh in on. But unless the council is interested in, I think Councilman Courage talked about additional dollars, but any additional dollars would have to come back to council.
Mm-hmm. But the proposal to shift $250,000 did not have to come to council. I think there's the issue of process and transparency, right? Yeah. That for an additional $100,000, it has to come to council, but a decision is made with $250,000 ARPA dollars without council discussion and or consensus.
So the decision is yours this afternoon. You will decide that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add, it was in the memo, so the decision was already made and presented to us before council discussion. And it's not necessarily the issue with tenants receiving the assistance they deserve. It's an issue about process and transparency on how decisions were made without ARPA dollars, without this body discussing that funding.
So I'll take a little bit of exception to that, only because the issue, and I think one of the speakers talked about it, the issue of $2,500 per resident has been spoken about by both the council members and folks that have been speaking to you. As that development occurred, and as I mentioned at the beginning, Western Urban on Tuesday afternoon made that offer. I'm making that recommendation that we match to get to that $2,500 for the $189, and that's part of the amended recommendation. But ultimately, that's up to the council to decide. In my mind, I'm sorry. Let me just. I'll wrap up. In my mind, that met a lot of what some of you were talking about, which was $2,500 per person, including Cops Metro, including some of the residents, and some of what I heard on Monday night.
Can Weston Urban, can you commit to asking the county to also match your $250,000 in the MOU that y'all will be discussing?
The city can do that too.
Yeah, but I think coming from Weston Urban would be more impactful if you all can ask the county to match the $250,000.
We can ask. Yes, we can commit to asking.
Yes, because thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember Pelaez.
Thanks, Mayor. And again, I've learned a lot today. Thanks to all the folks that came out and spoke to us. I witnessed your vulnerability, and I know that it was hard to tell your truth. I think that we're doing right by y'all by accepting Cops Metro's recommendation for the $2,500 package that and the relocation services and the guarantees of dignified, good, clean, safe housing. I think at the end of the day, supporting this project is the right thing to do. And it's important also, folks, to make sure that we're crystal clear about who we're dealing with. A lot has been said about Mr. Graham Weston, who I think I've met once in my life and in passing, but two of the other big partners who are putting skin in the game on this one are Esperanza Hope Andrade, who, for those of you that haven't met her, is the very, very first Latina Secretary of State in the history of Texas. She was the former chairwoman of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in San Antonio, a trustee of Our Lady of the Lake University, who is and as we know, that university is an iconic advocate for Latina and female empowerment. She was our very first. I think the Texas Department of Transportation. I may be wrong about that. Additionally, another individual who I think stands for the right things, particularly as it relates to the empowerment of people of color, is David Robinson, who is also putting skin in the game here. And I don't think anybody can accuse either of these two people of wanting anything other than what's best for people of color, vulnerable people in San Antonio. And I think that they are paragons of honesty and good faith. They've always delivered on their promises. And so I'm confident that the team that we have is the right team. And I'm looking forward to attending the very first baseball game, y'all. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilmember Pelaez. Councilmember Rocha Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. And then I had one final question, and it was it was Opportunity Home related. And I wanted to thank and acknowledge, so Gabe, while you come up here, thank and acknowledge that the Express News editorial board did a really nice piece on their about the ballpark. And specifically, they asked about rental assistance, and they asked if there would be coverage of any of the first rent assistance. And they asked Randy that, and they quoted that they were disappointed because at the time the answer was, we don't plan to pay their first month's rent or anything like that. For those that need it, that's where Brandon and their team comes in. And again, I appreciate Brandon and the team, but so help me understand how much it's going to cost Opportunity Home to cover the first month's rent, or what are you budgeting for?
That is yet to be determined. So as with any current landlord, regardless of affordability, market rate, any landlord will look to actually increase their occupancy. So what we've done is to offer to closely match existing rents to Soap Factory tenants that choose to participate in leaving sooner than later, or even those that want to move later, we're willing to offer them, of course, according to availability. Included in that, those that are specifically a part of this relocation, we will do the first month's rent free.
Got it. And then the first month's rent, waiving that, being able to offer them that doesn't have to go to your board then?
No,
Like that
that's
offer?
that's absolutely an operation offer that they committed to.
But we don't know what the maximum that's going to be expended by Opportunity is home. There's no way to determine that.
We can take the overall population of the existing soap factory and extrapolate a number from there, but it wouldn't necessarily absolutely reflect it. We don't know who will do so, who's going to. They're already experiencing,
Sure.
and they'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but 60% of the existing don't renew and may or may not even stay in the city. We don't know. So it's an arbitrary number for us at this point.
Got it.
And
So,
phase one is up to 190 units. We're prepared today to do that. So
got it. And so you're prepared to do that based on maybe the 40% retention that's been talked about, possibly?
that's entirely separate. That's their retention. That's different from ours.
Okay.
We're knowing what the total population is in phase one. That again, we have about a year, and any number of that can happen between now and then. We have already, as an organization, they've made a decision that that's what we will do. That did not need board approval because that's operations.
Okay, got it. So I think that I'm still a little bit confused on that answer, but I can get with you offline. And again, I'm just trying to figure out like what, how much money, right, are a couple of people allowed to spend without having to consult with the body, and how is the difference with operational? But again, that'll be more, I guess, coming for Opportunity Home. I need to learn a little bit more about those decisions. But thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate you. I
Okay,
know you
absolutely.
probably weren't prepared for that, but I also wasn't prepared to hear that you all were going to be supportive, and I just thought, gosh, it takes council so long to give Eric the authority to do something, and I just thought it was, I just didn't understand how it worked, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Council.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rocha Garcia. Any further discussion on item 5? Eric, I did want to ask again for the record, because I know my colleagues are interested in this. In the West Side TERS, the county doesn't currently participate, but you were following up in conversations to secure their commitment going forward in the West Side TERS.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, actually, Councilwoman Castillo and I have had separate conversations with Commissioner Rodriguez. We will follow up because we don't have an issue to that. And I was just sharing with Mr. Ortiz that I'm going to also ask that they help us with the county to advocate for that as that moves forward through the county process, and we'll work together to see if we can get a decision from the county to participate in that West Side TERS.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? All right, well, I appreciate everyone's active discussion on this and the very heartfelt comments and points that people are making. In my view, at the end of the day, again, we are securing a significant improvement, public improvement for downtown, and in alignment with our goals and policies, but also ensuring that residents who are impacted are also assisted in the process. So with that, we have a motion and a second. First, we'll take up on continuance for this vote to be continued to meeting prior to September 23rd. So we'll take that motion first. And again, a yes vote is to delay. Please vote. A yes vote would be to delay. If a no vote, if the vote fails, we will move on to approval of the item. Okay, motion fails. We'll now move on to the main motion, which is a motion to approve item 5. Please vote. Motion carries. All right, that is the balance of our agenda. Thank you all very much again for those of you who came out to speak. We'll turn it over. I do want to note from my colleagues, we do have an executive session today, but first we have a city manager's report.
Mayor, I'll roll the city manager's report to next week. It's just some awards that a couple departments have gotten. Thank you.
All right, so at 2:26 p.m. on the 12th day of September 2024, City Council of the City of San Antonio will now meet in executive session and consult with the City Attorney's Office pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code and deliberate and discuss the following items: economic development negotiations pursuant to Section 551.087, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Section 551.072, and legal issues related to litigation involving the city, emergency preparedness, and collective bargaining, all pursuant to Section 551.071.